Chapter 26. When Cole came to the hall, it was already crowded. Sir Blackfish left at the door and didn't know where he was going. After seeing Braun in the hall, Cole walked towards him. He was lying under a pillar with a lazy expression. The hall was brightly lit, with torches shining with blazing flames. Lady Lisa, who was in a high position, was dressed in a black gauze dress. She summoned the knights and nobles to publicly hear the little devil's confession. With a bang, the valve was pushed open, and several knights escorted Tyrion in. "It feels like something is going to happen to your dwarf friend," Braun said to him. Cole turned his eyes to Tyrion, who happened to be looking too, and nodded in this direction. The knight pushed Tyrion toward the center of the hall, then retreated to the sides. He staggered a few steps, stabilized his body, and saluted upward. Lady Catelyn Stark asked directly, "I heard that you intend to plead guilty." "Yes, ma'am," Tyrion answered. Lisa Oren smiled at her sister, with some pride in her eyes. Her dungeon could make anyone surrender, even the legendary Little Devil. "Say it," Lady Lisa ordered to Tyrion. Unexpectedly, Tyrion slapped her in the face next, and he said, "Where should I start? I admit that I am a little villain." He looked like he was pretending to be crazy, talking about some insignificant crimes, and his tone was humorous. It didn't look like he was confessing, but rather like he was mocking himself. That funny look made the hall burst into laughter. "Shut up!" Lisa Oren was angered by his appearance. "Well, I'm pleading guilty, ma'am. You are accused of sending men to assassinate my bedridden son Bran, and of conspiring to kill the king's hand, Lord Jon Arryn." Tyrion shrugged, "I'm afraid I can't admit to these crimes." Lady Lisa stood up from her throne angrily and quickly asked the Knights of Arryn Valley to take the little devil back to the dungeon. What no one expected at this time was that Tyrion suddenly roared loudly, "Is there any justice in Arryn Valley? Isn't there even a little honor in the Blood Gate? You accuse me and I deny it, so you just should I be thrown into Gentian prison to starve and freeze?" He raised his head and said, "Where is the king's justice? You said someone accused me of a crime. Well, I demand a fair trial. Let the gods in heaven and the people on earth decide the authenticity of my words." Lisa Aery smiled disdainfully, "Fair trial, that's good. This is the Vale of Arryn, and the judge is his son Robert Arryn." She ordered her attendants to open the moon door. This was the way the Aery city executed criminals, allowing the prisoner to feel soaring and then smashed into a pulp. Tyrion sneered in his heart and glanced under a pillar in the hall. "Dear lady, I think there is no need to disturb Lord Robert. The gods in the sky will restore my innocence, and I am willing to let them make a decision. I demand trial by combat." There was a burst of laughter in an instant, and everyone was amused by his actions. Only Catelyn and Sir Blackfish did not laugh. They couldn't help but look at the child under the pillar. Catelyn frowned and was about to turn around to remind her sister, but Our Lady Lisa Oren just said with a surprised look on her face, "Of course you have this right." In an instant, more than a dozen knights volunteered. There were not many opportunities like this. Not only could they curry favor with the Arryn family, but if they used their heroic demeanor to humiliate Lady Lisa's heart, they would not only win the beauty back home, but also take over the Arryn Valley. Lisa did not accept anyone. Instead, she called Sir Vardis Egan, who was the captain of the guard of the former Lord Prime Minister Jon Arryn. "Yes, our bastard son Jon was named after this. Jon Duke Ern is the adoptive father of Eddard Stark, Duke of the North. So Duke Eddard wanted to call Lisa both sister-in-law and adoptive mother. Hey, look at this messy relationship. Please give this responsibility to someone else. I really have no intention of going to war. This man is not a warrior." Vardis pointed at Tyrion, "Look at him, he is a dwarf, only half as tall as me. I think my brother would be happy to fight for me." "Your great regicide is 100 miles away," Lisa snapped. "You will have to duel Sir Vardis tomorrow." Tyrion turned back to the singer Merrill Lion and asked him to make a song about Lisa not allowing him to find a deputy knight. Lisa was angered and said, "I'm not right. Little devil, if you have the ability, just pick an acting knight. Sir Cole, your employer needs help now." Tyrion called towards the pillar. Lisa was stunned for a moment, a little dumbfounded. She followed Tyrion's gaze and saw a young man standing upright. He was not small, not too strong, but had a handsome face, and he didn't look too old. "Are you going to fight for the little devil?" Lisa asked. He just thought the child looked like a harmless bard. Cole bowed slightly, "Yes, ma'am." I am willing to fight in Tyrion Lannister's place. You know what you're doing. She threatened. Of course. How can I stand by and watch when my friend is in trouble? He answered without fear. She was still looking at this unfamiliar knight, but her sister Catelyn suddenly said loudly, "This kid is not a knight at all." Cole was shocked for a moment. He just felt how similar it was. Is the identity of a knight really so important that he is not even qualified for trial by combat? No one will tell him that the identity of a knight is not important. There are knights everywhere in the Seven Kingdoms. But here, knights are very important. Lisa looked at her sister and saw that she was staring at her with dissatisfaction. She suddenly smiled, "Little devil, is this the acting knight you are looking for? Did you appoint him personally? He has no right to act as an agent for others." Tyrion was also stunned. He seemed not to have thought about this problem. He could only say stubbornly, "Everyone is equal under the gods. If you can't find a knight to fight for you, then fight yourself tomorrow, little devil. I have given you a chance. I wonder which kind knight can appoint this child. You will definitely be proud of it." Tyrion looked around and his eyes looked at Bronn. This guy is definitely a knight, but he has no title. Only knights can appoint knights. The whole audience was silent, and no one spoke. Bronn narrowed his eyes, not knowing what he was thinking. He raised his foot, but someone spoke first, "Let me do it." The voice was deep and steady. Everyone looked at it. It was Blackfish Brandon Tully. "Uncle, what are you doing?" Lisa's face finally showed a trace of ferocity. She couldn't understand why her uncle did this. Sir Blackfish walked down the stand, "The trial must be fair and just. This child is willing to fight for his friends. I approve of his behavior. He is like a knight." Blackfish walked in front of Cole and drew his sword, "Kneel down, child." Cole looked at him gratefully, and then knelt on one knee. "In the name of a warrior, I command you to be brave, in the name of the Father, I command you to be fair, in the name of the Virgin, I command you to be merciful, in the name of a maiden, I command you to be kind, in the name of a blacksmith, I command you to be hard-working, in the name of an old woman, I command you to be rational, in the name of a stranger, I command you to be spiritual. The seven gods bless you, Cole, the Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. Please stand up." He tapped Cole's shoulders one by one with his sword. Chapter 27. "Uncle, do you know what you are doing? You are helping the damn Lannister." Lisa was flailing around in the room with an angry look on her face. Catelyn was also very puzzled by his behavior. Is this the same Uncle Brandon who listened to their shared joys and sorrows? The two ladies, who were both mothers, stared straight at Heiyu. Heiyu slowly spoke, "How long do you plan to keep this farce going? The Kingslayers have already gathered outside Riverrun and the war is about to begin. If we kill that dwarf now, we won't have any room for negotiation." "Farce! That damn little devil of uncle killed my husband. He must die, and my knight will beat that boy to pieces," Lisa said very confidently. "I don't care what happens to that dwarf. If you want to be judged, go ahead and judge him, but I will bring 1,000 cavalry to support your father and brother." Lisa sat back on her chair arrogantly, "There will be no less defenders in the Eagle's Nest City, uncle. You are the Knight of the Blood Gate, and you should be guarding here." Catelyn didn't expect her sister to say such things. She looked at her uncle and saw that his face was red with anger. "F the Knights of the Blood Gate. Regardless of whether it is Blackfish or not, I am a member of the Tully family. I will return to Riverrun tonight. Are you going to break your oath, uncle?" Heiyu turned around fiercely, "Knight of the Blood Gate, that won't be the case anymore. You can just find another one from those idiots who flatter you." After saying that, he stepped out angrily. "How could you talk to your uncle like that?" Catelyn looked at her sister in shock, then rushed out after her. "Uncle Brandon!" Catelyn shouted to Blackfish. The flying Blackfish stopped. "Little Kate, do you also want to blame me for canonizing that boy?" Blackfish looked at Catelyn with an angry look. Catelyn shook her head, "No, uncle. He can be a knight." Heiyu's complexion looked better now. "Uncle, don't blame Lisa." Looking at her uncle's angry eyes, Catelyn had to ask, "Do you want to walk alone? That mountain road is impossible to walk alone. Sir Roderick and I are also preparing come back to Winterfell and come with us. I will provide you with 1,000 elite soldiers. Riverrun will never fight alone." Blackfish looked at Catelyn's face, and his memory seemed to return to the girl who was crying and complaining to him. He sighed, "That's it. I'll wait for you below." Caitlin did not walk back, but walked back to the tower residence. At this moment, she felt regret again. Lisa had become something she almost didn't recognize. What had happened to her over the years? Do the gods also think that Lannister is not guilty? Moreover, Tyrion is her prisoner and Lisa has no right to judge him. She couldn't help but think about whether it was right to let the boy go, and why her uncle wanted to canonize him. Cole's mood was very complicated when he walked back to his residence. In this way, he was considered a knight, without much ceremony or joy. This status did not bring him any real sense of honor, and no one would value him because of it. He was still a humble ant without a surname. He could have told a lie. No one would care if an unknown person was a knight. Even if he was just a wild knight. Only after being decorated by a noble could he get a surname and a title. But at least he won't be used to make things difficult for him in the future. Sir Blackfish's help in times of need helped Tyrion and him, at least giving him a glimmer of dignity. Even if Cole can't take action, Bronn will be there. The astute mercenary knows how to seize the opportunity. Tomorrow he will help Tyrion conduct a trial by combat. The enemy is a famous Knight of the Valley. The children of Arryn Valley may forget Kingsguard and Knight of White Harbor in the game, but they will never forget to play Knight of the Vale. This place has the strongest atmosphere of knights, which is why Caitlin directly shouted out that he was not a knight. The continent is in chaos, but only the valleys, high in the mountains, slowly become kings and build high walls. Here are the most elite knights of the Seven Kingdoms. When the Blood Gate opens, it will surely shock the entire Westeros. Cole looked at the layers of clouds and waves outside the window. In fact, the valley has the foundation of the Royal Road. It is not unreasonable for the Andals to start conquering it from here. I wonder if the woman sitting on the throne now has this awareness. Cole shook his head. None of this was his business. He just wanted to be a noble like Bronn, and then find a better territory, preferably in the Riverlands, and then marry a good man. An aristocratic woman who has good taste can study food and drink every day and enjoy it until she dies. He wiped the winter night with sword oil. After experiencing so many battles along the way, it was still as chilly as when he first saw it. It was indeed a good sword, and I really owed Wei Ji a great debt of gratitude. The next morning the castle became noisy. Cole calmed down last night and had a good sleep. If Cole looks back, he will find that he has changed a lot. The boy who used to stay up all night because of trivial things has become a man who is calm when things happen. He put on his armor that was missing pieces. The enemy would definitely be fully armed, but Cole was confident that he could win this battle. After several deadly battles, his killing skills had become perfect. As soon as Cole went out, he saw a knight standing outside. He led Cole to a garden, which was already crowded with people. A big iron man was being penetrated by his attendants. He was Cole's opponent, Sir Vardis. Lady Lisa sat high on the open balcony. A thin child sat in the main chair. A puppeteer performed acrobatics below the stage, making him laugh. The guests raised their glasses and drank more. They didn't think it was a fight, but a noble party. Catelyn Stark had just arrived, and her sister Lisa came forward to give her a hug and kiss. But there was no joy on Catelyn's face. She just said worriedly, "Lisa, you can't go on making trouble. The little devil is valuable only when he is alive. And if the child wins?" Earl Hunter interrupted her, "Madam, I don't think it's possible." "My lord, are you so sure?" Catelyn said coldly. She knew the child's ability. 5 or 6 mountain men couldn't hurt him. Catelyn and her sister argued for a while. Lisa was stubborn and arrogant and didn't listen to anything. At this time, our Lord Robert suddenly shouted excitedly, "The little rascal is here. Mommy, I want to see him fly, can we let him fly?" Tyrion was being brought up by several knights. He looked around and finally found Cole. Cole smiled at him, as if giving him a reassurance. The boy seemed a little impatient. He kept pestering his mother to see the dwarf fly. The bells suddenly rang below, and the monk who witnessed the trial walked to the stone statue in the center of the garden. It was a crying woman, Alessa. The river called Alessa's Tears on the giant's spear was named after her. Sir Vardis had finished wearing armor, and the squire was bringing up his sword. Cole also slowly walked towards the open space in the garden. "Let him fly, let him fly!" Lord Robert Arryn shouted. Chapter 28. Sir Vardis is a complete set of heavy armor, gauntlets, iron gloves, plate armor, a metal group like a lobster shell, a steel neck guard, and a mask in the shape of an eagle's beak, leaving only a slight gap for the eyes. Cole also had ring armor, but half of it was missing, a bumpy metal helmet, a mask borrowed from the weapons depot, armor plates on his arms, and leggings on his heels. Compared with the metallic Valley Knight, Cole is dressed like a jester. Sir Vardis is like a white and elegant temple warrior, while Cole is like a wild man outside the wall. The two knelt down on one knee under the sculpture of Alessa, with the little devil standing between them. The monk took out a multifaceted crystal, and the refracted sunlight flashed 7 colors of iridescence. He solemnly and sacredly prayed to the gods, asking them to witness this trial. The voice echoed, and the lingering sound lingered. As Tyrion was being led away, Cole whispered, "He's wearing a lot of clothes. He must be tired." Cole smiled knowingly. Vardis took the sword handed by the attendant. This sword was very beautiful, with silver filigree carvings. There was a falcon head on the hilt, and the handguards were spread wings. It looked like a soaring eagle. He tried it. "Give it a few swings." Cole also pulled out his sword, and for a moment the light was as cold as the night. Lady Lisa, who was still boasting about the carved silver sword, suddenly shut up. Everyone secretly asked, how could this down-and-out knight have such a sword? Sir Vardis saluted the lord loudly, "Fight for the Eyrie and the Vale of Arryn." Cole also wanted to shout, but he really didn't know what to shout. "You can't fight for the Great Wall of Despair, right?" Vardis turned around and picked up the kite shield. Cole drew another sword with his backhand. Wow! There was an instant uproar. Some people marveled, this man actually wields a sword with both hands. Catelyn thought of the past events her husband Ned told her, when she asked him who the mother of his illegitimate child was. Is she the Ashura Dane in the rumors? Instead of answering him, her husband ordered her not to ask any more questions. Later, perhaps out of guilt, he would talk about the legendary knight Arthur Dane. People preferred to call him the Sword of the Dawn. Sir Dawn Excalibur uses two-handed swords. The Dawn Excalibur sword is mainly for attack and the steel sword is for defense. Every time he recalled this knight in white, Ned always showed respect. It was a battle of 10 people, but in the end only 2 people survived. When Catelyn looked towards the duel field, the two of them had already met each other. The child crossed his swords against Sir Vardis's silver sword. He exerted so much force that the heavily armoured knight staggered. He took a few steps back. Cole didn't defend at all, and slashed with both swords like a hurricane. Sir Vardis could only keep retreating with his shield raised. Occasionally seizing the gap, Vardis swung his sword twice, but Cole always dodged it nimbly. He couldn't hit him at all, but was constantly attacked like a slow turtle. Everyone present was shocked by this scene, and some noble girls even felt worried, as their knight seemed to be losing. Bronn shook his head secretly. How could he fight like this? He obviously couldn't break through the armor, and he still attacked randomly. It was a waste of energy. He would definitely lose after exhaustion. Yes, Bronn wanted the same thing as Tyrion, which was to wear down his opponent. Vardis was already quite old, and he couldn't hold on for long even if he was wearing such heavy armor. Instead, Cole competed with him in strength, which was completely thankless. Vardis kept flinching in fear. Others thought it was easy for him to resist, but every time this kid struck with his sword, it was like a heavy hammer. Every time he blocked it, he had to slow down for a long time. No one could see the sweat pouring out behind him. He thought he was experienced in many battles, but this was the first time he had seen such a fighting style. It was too cruel, and what only he knew was that the child's sword was getting stronger and faster as he swung it. Fast, the most terrifying thing is that he only attacks but does not defend. With a bang, the shield was actually chopped into pieces by Cole, and the fragments were scattered all over the ground. Vardis quickly held the sword with both hands, but the one-handed sword could not block his attack. Cole opened and closed, up, down, left and right, attacking from all directions. When Vardis received a sword blow, he had to take a blow with his armor. The armor that originally looked majestic and solemn was now dented in all directions. Catelyn couldn't help but wonder what would happen on the battlefield if such a person wore heavy armor. At this moment, some people couldn't help but think of that infamous guy. Magic Mountain. What will happen if this man fights with the Magic Mountain? People who had seen the Magic Mountain secretly compared Cole's size with his. It was obvious that the giant had the upper hand. Sir Vardis's hands began to tremble, and his armor began to crack. The battle had been going on for nearly 10 minutes, and suddenly Cole's movements began to slow down. "He's tired," someone thought in his mind. Vardis seemed to have seized the opportunity, and stabbed Cole's chest with a sword. The silver sword shone brightly in the sun, and no one thought that his black ring armor could withstand the blow. Tyrion almost raised his heart to his throat. He secretly prayed in his heart, Little Ranger, you have never let me down. Don't lose." Cole suddenly stepped away, threw a sword, then grabbed Vardis's wrist and thrust Winter Night into his neck. "You have lost, sir," he said softly. Vardis tried to withdraw his arm, but felt that it was tightly clamped and unable to move at all. Cole bent his hand, and heard a bone snap. He screamed and the silver sword fell to the ground. Sweat fell on his forehead. He steadied himself and snorted coldly, "I can still fight." Cole hit his head with the sword, and he staggered a few times and fell to the ground. The heavy armor made it difficult for him to get up. Cole picked up the carved silver sword and threw it in front of him. "If you still want to fight, then stand up." Vardis gritted his teeth and propped up his body, but he felt like a mountain was pressing on his body. His eyes flashed with unwillingness, and he looked up at the sky. Finally, he used up his last bit of strength and said, "I lost." After taking a breath, he pulled out his helmet and took the sword. "I am ashamed of Lord John. Mommy, why are they not fighting anymore?" Duke Robert, who was watching with interest, asked. "It's over, baby." Lisa waved her hand. "Someone help Sir Vardis take off his armor. Then can we watch the little bad guy fly?" The boy continued to ask. Tyrion walked to Cole with a smile. "The little scoundrel may not be able to fly. He plans to go down the mountain with radish in a basket. Thank you for your care. I thought." Before Lady Lisa could speak, the little devil said, "I thought the Arryns still remembered their language, as high as glory." Lisa was so angry that she hurriedly drove the guests away. "Come on, send Lord Lannister and his monster away for me." Chapter 29. Salted beef, dry bread. Lady Lisa is really generous. Tyrion looked at the supplies that the Knights of the Bloody Gate stuffed into their hands. Sir Lyn Corbray looked grim. "I wish you a safe journey, Lord Lannister." Seeing their expressions of swallowing shit, for some reason, Tyrion felt a little secretly happy. But soon he couldn't laugh anymore. Walking on the rugged mountain road, he couldn't help but recall the dangers of this journey. He thought of those mountain wilds whose weapons and equipment were extremely simple. Thinking of the greedy jailer he bribed in prison, an idea flashed through his mind. Beep! A whistle sounded, and a figure turned behind the mountain poplar tree beside the mountain road. "Bronn." The mercenary spread his hands and walked up. "It seems that the knights think I am one of your gang. Now it's good to have one more person," Tyrion thought. "What are you going to do? Fight back?" The mercenary looked at the two. "It's several days away from the Trident. Those mountain people are like ghosts and may rush out at any time. Fighting back is not a good option." Cole analyzed. "I mean, do you have any good ideas?" Bronn continued to ask. "No, why not find a place to hide and wait for the Lannisters to attack the Eyrie, then we will come out." "This is a bad idea, Cole." Tyrion shook his head. "They can't last long with just this little food, not to mention that with his father's temperament, even if he would rather lead his troops to fight the north, he would not come to attack the Eyrie. This place was built like an iron barrel by the nobles of the Arryn Valley. Maybe we should talk to our new friends," Tyrion said confidently. "New friends?" Bronn was a little confused. Tyrion waved his hand. "Let's go, there's still a long way to go." He walked in front, swaying, looking unconcerned. Bronn looked at Cole and saw that he was also indifferent. He suddenly felt that his brain was not enough. "So what makes you so confident? If we leave him behind, I think we can rush back to the Riverlands lightly." "I can hear you," Tyrion shouted in front without looking back. Cole smiled sideways. "In fact, I wanted to leave. I didn't have to come to the Eyrie at all." Patted his shoulder. "Believe me, you won't suffer if you follow Lannister." Although Bronn is indeed a profiteer, it is undeniable that this guy is a person with a bottom line. He will do things after receiving money, although he talks a lot. But at least he will not be like those high players in the Game of Thrones. "You betray me, I betray you." Smart people don't need to say too much. Obviously Bronn also realized the opportunity. In the conversation along the way, he realized that this dwarf is not what he seems, but an extremely smart person. Although he didn't catch the first hand, the little devil is obviously still in trouble now, and it is a good time to help him. He feels that Cole is much smarter than him in this regard. Haha, if you knew he was robbing you of your chance, you wouldn't think so. So what do you want, Braun? Tyrion asked as he walked, golden dragon, woman, or glory. Now every bit of fighting power is worth winning over. Anyway, as long as he returns to Casterly Rock alive, these things are not worth mentioning. Braun curled his lips, maybe it's glory. I really love glory, just like the Unsullied love to visit brothels. As long as you save me, you can have whatever you want. After walking out of the patrol range of the Bloody Gate, there were only rocks and mountains along the way. They tried to speed up their pace and walked in silence. Any noise at any moment might attract attacks from the mountain wildlings. I want to rest. After walking for half a day, Tyrion suddenly stopped. It was okay to ride a horse, but it was impossible for him to walk all day. His deformed legs could not withstand such pressure. It's better to make a fire and have a meal. I'm starving. Are you eager to die, Lannister? The fire will attract the wildlings around. Bronn spit on the ground. Those wildlings are full of spies. They will come even if we don't make a fire. Tyrion pulled a dead branch and reached out to Cole. Do you have a flint? I'm not your squire, Tyrion. Cole took out a flint from the cloth bag. I know. You are a knight of the Seven Kingdoms, Sir Cole. He suddenly grinned, a virgin knight. Women can't save you now, only knights can. Cole patted his sword. My 7 layers of hell, look at you proud. But now give me a woman, it's worth it even if I die. The woman you want is here. Bronn drew his sword. Dark shadows flashed around, and soon a dozen mountain wildlings surrounded them in the center. These natives are both men and women, wrapped in fur, except for a few male mountain men who are a bit sturdy, all of them are dry. No, our new friends are here. Tyrion threw down the branch and wiped his hands on his clothes. Tyrion walked to Bronn's side and pressed down his sword. Don't scare your friends with this thing. Welcome everyone, do you want to enjoy a pleasant dinner with us? We have the best beef and toast. Tyrion shouted to the group of mountain people. Kill half of the people, we can eat mutton. The burly wild man said. A tall and thin savage pointed a knife at Tyrion. Remember the god who told you that the one who will send you to heaven is Gunthor, son of Gun of the Stone Crow tribe. Shagga, son of Dorf, shouted the burly savage. I am Tyrion, son of Tywin of the Lannister tribe. Tyrion pointed at Cole. He is. Well. He is. I don't think we need to fight each other, Tyrion said, turning his words. He patted Cole's armor and then his own helmet. These armors are all good things. I can give them all to you. Ha ha ha. A mountain man named Khan laughed. Kill half the people, these things will also be ours. A group of savages laughed along with him. The half-men are going to use our things to compensate us. Only a savage named Torek didn't laugh along, and his eyes kept staring at Cole. Kill them, and then let half of them milk the goats, Shagga ordered. Apparently he was the leader of the group. Cole drew his sword and glanced around. The savage named Torek was so frightened that he collapsed to the ground. It's him, he's the devil. The savage looked at Cole. Is this the devil? Torek said. Cole didn't recognize that this man was one of the 2 barbarian cavalry who besieged him. For a moment, the savages did not dare to act rashly. The burly Xiaojie came directly with an axe and chopped down. He was not afraid of the devil. He was the most powerful warrior of the Stone Crow tribe. He wanted to cut off the devil's lifeblood and feed it to the goats. Cole blocked with his sword and took out Winter Night. Xiaojie only felt his head shake, and then fell to the ground with a bang. I have never been more afraid than brute force Cole. The savages swallowed. Tyrion's eyes flashed with joy. Gunthor, son of Gun, my family is rich and powerful, and there are countless warriors like this. If you protect us from the mountain safely, then I can give you something thousands of times better than this. Equipment. Flatlander's words are worthless. You have seen it yourselves, his sword can kill you easily. And those in your hands are only suitable for killing sheep. Tyrion pointed to the Winter Night. There are many swords like this in my tribe. Has the son of Tywin decided to trade your life with a sword? Or a spear? Armor? Son of Gun, these are not problems. Tyrion knew that his goal had been achieved. He smiled and said, I can give you more, such as the entire Aran Valley. Everyone knew he was talking big words, but due to Cole's force and the temptation from the equipment, the mountain man's heart began to wander. Chapter 30. When Shagga, the son of Dove, woke up, he couldn't help but rub his eyes frantically. Gunthor, Khan, Toriel, half-man, devil? Why are they eating together by the fire? Looks like a tribal person. Well, he's awake, Tyrion said. He walked to Zyaga's side and said, they want to listen to your opinion on everything they say. They say that every free citizen has the right to speak. Opinion? Cut off half a human and feed it to goats. Zyaga scratched his head, obviously not knowing what the situation was. Tyrion's face darkened, you'd better talk to him yourself. Cole couldn't hold back his laughter. Sorry, although I have received professional training, I couldn't hold it back. Gunthor told Tyrion's conditions again, and Shagga's eyes widened instantly. There is such a good thing. He leaned into Gunthor's ear and whispered, such a good thing should be known to the people in the clan. We are preparing to return to the tribe with half a man, just waiting for you to wake up. Xiaojie jumped up directly. He glanced at Cole and felt a little frightened. If the half-man deceives us, he will be chopped up and fed to the goats, he threatened. I don't know why this kid is so enthusiastic about this matter, but fortunately, they finally gained the trust of Xiaojie and the others. Xiaojie and the others led Cole and the others into the mountains, walking through low trees and winding stone paths. It wasn't until the moonlight set that they arrived at the Stone Crow tribe. Thatched huts and leather tents were scattered in a stone forest. The complex terrain is very unsuitable for cavalry charges. It seems that they are also particular about choosing the location. No one can catch up with the free people in the mountains. Zaga said confidently. Xiaojie. A group of patrolling freedmen followed the sound. Where have you gone? Asked the leading freeman. I've done a big thing. He gave up his position, revealing Tyrion under the shadow. I want to take Tywin's son to see the elders. He led Cole and the others excitedly towards the center of the camp, and the remaining free people dispersed after returning to the tribe. The elder of the Stone Crow tribe was already very old, thin, with a hoarse and weak voice. He raised his cloudy eyes to size up Cole and the others. Xiaojie, why don't you introduce your friend? This is the son of Tywin of the Lannister tribe. This is... He couldn't remember the names of the other two. The names of these Flatlanders were just hard to remember. Lannister of the Lion family. The elder Stone Crow revealed Tyrion's identity in one word. Cole immediately felt that this old man was different from other tribesmen. Yes, I am Tyrion Lannister, son of Lord Tywin Lannister. Tyrion saluted slightly. I wonder why the Lannister family came to our Stone Crow tribe. It's a good thing, elder. Xiaojie said excitedly. A good thing. Elder Stone Crow shook his head, the Lannister family is at war, and I don't think you can bring any good things. War. Tyrion was a little stunned. He thought in his mind, did his father really lead the army to the Eagle's Nest? He quickly denied it. It was impossible. His father had never been such a reckless person, not to mention that he wished that he, a disgrace, would die soon. Maybe it's the so-called family honor he believes in. No one can humiliate the Lannister, and the Lannister must pay its debts. With his father's style of doing things, he should put pressure on the North or Riverrun, but he shouldn't dare to go too far. After all, he still has to give some face to his cheap brother-in-law, King Robert. He suddenly had an idea. I know what you need. I hope that the Stone Crow tribe can fight for me. I will give you wealth, armor, weapons, and even fiefs. So that you no longer have to avoid the pursuit of those valley knights. Elder Stone Crow fell into deep thought. No matter how well informed he was still thinking like a free citizen. As long as the benefits are big enough, they are willing to take risks. I am not willing to gamble with the fate of the Stone Crow tribe, and your words are unconvincing, Lannister. Shagga looked anxious. Elder, look at that sword. There are many tribes of the sons of Tywin. Elder Shia looked at his foolish warrior, sighed silently in his heart, and changed the topic. If you can get the approval of several other mountain tribes, then I will agree to Xiaojie leading the warriors of the tribe to fight for you. Fighting! Good guy, Cole exclaimed in his heart, this is the rhythm of dragging other tribes into the water. If the bet is won, the cake will be divided. Anyway, Tyrion boasted enough. It doesn't matter if you lose. Anyway, the conflict between the mountain tribes is just a conflict between several tribes. Everyone's strength is damaged, so it's balanced. And the test came to Tyrion. He had to persuade these tribes to fight for him, otherwise he would not get the support of the Stone Crow tribe. But he originally just wanted to return to the Riverlands as soon as possible. He just wanted to sleep on a soft feather bed and drink a glass of sugar wine. Tyrion looked around. He was already deep in the center of the Alpine clan tribe, and he even boasted about the sea. Even if he wanted to leave now, these barbarians would not allow him. Without getting the things he promised, what do you think? Will these violent guys let them go in peace? No matter how powerful Cole and Bronn are, they can't wipe out a whole tribe. I had to bite the bullet and jump into the hole I had dug. Okay, I will go and persuade the other tribes, but the Stone Crow tribe must send people to protect us. If I am gone, then you will not be able to get anything. Tyrion said in a sonorous voice. I will let Shiga escort you. The Stone Crow elder finally smiled. His teeth had all fallen out, and there was only a black hole in his mouth. He ordered Shiga, take the guests to rest. Tyrion also forced a smile, but it was a bit far-fetched. They were taken to a thatched hut by Shiga, and Shiga pointed to another hut on the side. I live there, call me if you have anything. After leaving them here, he left. Bronn kicked the dead branches and leaves on the ground with his boots. The houses where these mountain people receive guests are not as good as stables. You can't expect them to find you a woolen bed. At least tonight you don't have to worry about the Shadow Mountain cat biting our necks off. Cole walked into the low house. These wildlings are not much different from Shadow Mountain cats. Maybe a free woman will climb on you and help you become a man. Bronn also walked in. Then you'd better be careful that your second brother doesn't get bitten off. Tyrion followed and responded, and his worries were relieved with the joke. Cole looked at the two speechlessly. It really is Crouching Dragon and Phoenix Child, right? Chapter 31. You must take my place temporarily, just as I take my father's place temporarily, until we return home. When the war is over, I will go home immediately. Well, mother will be back soon, and I will bring father back, I promise you. Bran was sitting in the study of Winterfell. Robb's words seemed to still ring in his ears. The place was deserted. Little Rickon was still disobedient. Everyone was gone, including his father, mother, and sister. Now even the eldest brother Robb is gone. He stared out the window in trance. There was really no noise in Winterfell at the moment. The world was silent. He couldn't help but think of what the wild man Osha said, the power of the old gods cannot reach the south. The weirwood trees there have long been destroyed. Cut it all down. Bran thought stubbornly, no matter the old gods or the new gods, they must bless them to come back safely. Zaga led yesterday's group of people to escort Cole and the others to lobby other tribes. The nearest Black-Ear tribe, the free people of this tribe are accustomed to cutting off the enemy's ears as a medal of victory, and are extremely vindictive. They believe that revenge is also a sign of bravery. As soon as Cole and the others approached, they were surrounded by a man. The leader loudly asked Xiajie, son of Dofu of the Stone Crow tribe, why did you bring people into our territory? The leader was a woman, thin and lean, with a flat chest. She looked like the vast desert of Dorne, with dark skin and several scars carved on her face. Just listen to Shaga say, Zilla, the daughter of Zeke, is the son of Tywin who wants to see you. There was doubt in Chi La's eyes. Ding Ching saw that he was actually half human. She couldn't help but burst into laughter. Is there no men in the Stone Crow tribe? Zaga was not happy when he heard this. The men of Stone Crow's tribe are the best free folk warriors. Disdain flashed in Sheila's eyes. She had cut off countless pairs of ears from the Stone Crow tribe. Maybe you can try to see if this half-man is a man. He will make you unable to get out of bed. Tyrion stepped forward. Take your half-human pet and get out of here, Zaga, unless you want to trigger a war between the two tribes. Zira said angrily. Xiajie will chop off all the lifeblood of the Black-Ear tribe. He threatened back without fear. The free men of the Black-Ear tribe behind Sheila started to yell and curse, wielding their swords and preparing to come up and kill these young Stone Crow tribes. The Stone Crow tribe was not left behind, and began to scold them, seeing that an armed conflict was about to take place. Bringing a group of barbarians to negotiate is really not a wise choice. Shaga, don't you want those good things? Tyrion's voice was like thunder, shocking everyone in the Stone Crow tribe to shut up. Seeing that the Stone Crow tribe was so frightened by 1.5 people that they dared not speak, the people of the Black Ear tribe burst out laughing and uttered a few sarcastic words from time to time. Xiaojie was so angry that his face turned red. Zilla, daughter of Zeke, we are not here to fight with your tribe, but to discuss business. Tyrion said to her. Talk about business. Qi said with contempt on her face, are half-humans going to sell themselves to us? Cha draws his sword, Tyrion suddenly shouted. With a swish, 2 sharp swords were unsheathed. The Black Ear tribe instantly assumed a defensive stance. Tyrion walked up to Cole and took the Winter Knight. Don't be nervous, we don't mean any harm. He waved at the branch on the side, and with a crash, the finger-thick branch fell. Did you see this sword? He handed the sword to Zira. She took it in astonishment. The sword was as cold as a blizzard when she took it. When she touched the blade, a layer of dead skin was cut open. I can give you countless swords like this. Zilla's eyes finally showed seriousness. I don't believe what half-humans say. I guarantee it with Lannister's reputation, and Shagga and the Stone Crow tribe can also guarantee it. Tyrion kicked the big man. You think so? Yes, the half-man still has armor and an axe. If he lies to us, feed his life to the goats. Zilla's eyes were filled with uncertainty, as if she was thinking about the pros and cons, and she asked, what do you need us to do? Fight for me, and I can provide you with weapons and armor. You should have seen the equipment of those Valley cavalry, and my equipment is countless times better than theirs. She seemed moved. This needs to be decided by the people in the clan. You and we will return to the clan. Certainly. Seeing his confident look, Qi felt a little convinced in her heart. She glanced at the Stone Crow tribe and asked, why are you still looking for us? I need a lot of people. Even if all the free people fight for me, I can't afford it. Qi nodded, and she threw the sword back to Tyrion. Cole caught it in the air and put the sword back into its scabbard. Both long swords were now held by Cole at his waist. Zira led them towards the tribe. As she walked, she said, I can convince the Moonmen to join us. Passers-by looked at them curiously as they walked, and a few freedmen gathered together had a different look in their eyes when they saw Cole and the others. Cole and the others were placed in a large wooden house by Zira. She went to gather the tribesmen, leaving her 2 sons to guard the house. There are no elders in the Black Ear tribe. Only the bravest warriors can lead the Black Ear tribe. Zira is now the nominal leader of the Black Ear tribe. Even though she is just a woman, one person has cut off for 12 ears, and her sons also had 50 ears cut off. After all, the Black Ear tribe is not a single dominant tribe. Freemen must respect everyone's opinions when judging major events. Just as Zira went out to call people, 6 or 7 people rushed in. Zira's son stopped them, but heard those guys say, Zed, Zib. Are you going to stop Black Ear from taking revenge? Hearing this, Zira's second son looked at each other in bewilderment. Someone pushed them away and rushed in, it's them who killed Camus. He even said several names, but Cole didn't remember them, but Cole knew that they were coming with bad intentions. Tyrion was at a loss. What was the Black Ear tribe going to do? Didn't they agree to call people to discuss? But before the little devil could figure it out, the group of Black Ear freemen had already slashed up with weapons. Zira's son watched from the outside. When others in the Black Ear tribe were fighting for revenge, no one could interfere. Cole pulled out Winter Knight like lightning and jumped to block Tyrion. The leader fell backwards after being slashed by his cross. He then slashed the throat of the black-eared freeman like a whirlwind. The man covered his neck with his hands and collapsed in fear. Cole's move shocked everyone. The Avengers were frightened for a moment and moved their feet hesitantly. Bronn took the opportunity to draw out his dagger and pierce one of them through the throat. Half of their people were gone in an instant. Chapter 32. When Keela led people back to the big wooden house for the meeting, it was already a mess. The free people of the Black Ear tribe behind her were surprised, and obviously did not understand Keela's intention. 7 free people died here, all of them were from the Black Ear tribe. Someone soon discovered that all the dead were from his own tribe. He looked at Keela angrily and asked loudly, Keela, why did my people die here? Keela obviously did not understand what happened. She looked at Shiga. 4 people were killed by the Stone Crow tribe. They were ordered to protect the half-man, so they would not stand idly by. Shiga pointed at the dead and said, they want the half-man to die, but the half-man has not fulfilled his promise and cannot die. It's Shiga, the son of Dofu from the Stone Crow tribe. Someone recognized Shiga. You brought outsiders into the meeting house. Are you going to betray the Black Ear tribe? Kila. The leaders of several major tribes criticized the chief Kila. There were clouds in her eyes, and he pointed his gaze at Tyrion. I need half a man to give me an explanation. Tyrion thought that they were on someone else's territory after all, so he temporarily suppressed his anger. In fact, he didn't understand why these people suddenly attacked them. He tried to be kind and said, in fact, we don't know either. Maybe you should ask those two warriors. The short finger pointed at the two sons of Zira. Zira then remembered that she had sent two sons to watch them. She called the two sons, and only heard the two young children with green faces tell the story one by one. Seeking revenge is somewhat similar to trial by combat in the Black Ear tribe, and it is an act recognized by the tribe. They think that those who dare to challenge the enemy are warriors. It turned out to be revenge, so there is nothing to say. Since they are warriors, they will die if they die. It's because they are not as skilled as others. In an instant, the tribal leaders stopped talking. Although the guy whose tribe member died was still full of anger in his eyes, he could only swallow his anger secretly. So you summoned us here, what's the matter? Zira. An elderly Black Ear leader asked. Zira told them the conditions Tyrion had said, and the leaders of the tribes began to think about it in their hearts. I won't let the warriors of my tribe fight for 1.5 people. The leader whose tribesman died was the first to raise a negative opinion. He stepped out after he finished speaking. The great free people didn't need to give anyone a face. Everyone knew that he was dissatisfied with the killing of his people, and he was restrained by not taking revenge. The withdrawal of some people also shook the hearts of these leaders. Even the barbaric free people would understand that opportunities and dangers go hand in hand. At this time, Tyrion said, I heard that the tribesmen of the mountain clans are the bravest warriors. Are you afraid? Shiga shouted very appropriately, the Stone Crow tribe is not afraid. We are the strongest warriors in the mountains. Bullshit, your Stone Crow tribe is only worthy of being with goats. Our Black Ear tribe is the bravest warrior in the mountains. Someone retorted. Seeing that another debate about who is the bravest person is about to start, Tyrion stopped him and said, since the Black Ears are not cowards, prove your courage to me. Half-man, if you are not lying, then we are willing to fight for you. If you dare to deceive the Black Ears, then let you understand what the courage of the Black Ears is. Zira said to him. This time no one questioned the chief again. After persuading the Black Ears, Zira led the way and they went to the Moon People. When the Moon People heard that the Black Ears had joined, they also happily agreed to join the alliance. The two tribes have always had a close relationship. It is rumored that the Moon People were a large tribe split from the Black Ears. They stayed overnight in the Moon People. That night, a burning people came over after hearing the news. It seems that the news that Tyrion was recruiting soldiers in the mountains has spread. The chief of the burning people is called Red Hand. People in this tribe will burn parts of their bodies with flames at the coming-of-age ceremony. The more important the part, the higher the reputation he will gain. Because he dug out his left eye, Timet, the son of Timet, was chosen as the Red Hand. Yes, this tribe also has title inheritance, and it is normal for the father and son to have the same name. When Timet came with a large group of people, the Moon People thought they were coming to attack. As a result, they found out that this group of people had just been to the Black Ears. For those who come to surrender, Tyrion will naturally accept them. He feels that this may also be an opportunity to prove himself. He is a dwarf, but he is definitely not a useless person. Tyrion casts his eyes to the starry sky. Sometimes he hates being in such a family that he is regarded as a shame. But he has to thank his identity, because only in such a family can he live to this day, and not have to play a clown in the circus. He imagined the expressions of the people in the tribe when they saw that he was not only not dead after being captured, but also brought a huge army. It must be very exciting. Lannister is a big sign. He knows very well that these people are around him just because his last name is Lannister. Tyrion would not be so naive as to think that it was his own personality that won them over. Those who know how to use their own advantages are smart people. He has a prominent family, so why not use this identity? Which tribe should we go to next? Cole asked while eating the food given to them by the Moon People. Cole didn't know what Tyrion was thinking, but he obviously had his own ideas. It was human nature to rely on the strong, and so did Cole. He didn't think he was born to be a king or a general. He just needed to follow the big guys. There would be bread and milk. As a time traveler, he had an advantage over the people in this world. He knew the changes in the situation and knew which people to bet on to get the biggest return. He was mediocre in his previous life, so it would be too flattering to say that he had great ambitions. Let's go to the Painted Dog tribe. Tyrion and Shiga had already found out the power distribution of the High Mountain clan. He had to go to the Painted Dog tribe. This tribe that had killed the king of Arrynvale was still the strongest force in the High Mountain clan even after thousands of years of beatings, followed by the Burning Man tribe, the Stone Crow tribe, and so on. The Painted Dog tribe was deep in the Moonlight Mountains. The next day, they climbed a long mountain road, went through layers of trees, and walked from early morning to dusk before they finally saw the shadow of the Painted Dog tribe. As expected, this tribe was different from other mountain people. There were stone houses scattered among their villages, and the scale was about the same as 2 or 3 Stone Crow tribes. People were densely packed among them. Tyrion and his men were discovered as soon as they approached. Chapter 33. The Painted Dog Tribe. In the book Valley Chronicles by Maester Enel, there is such a record. During the reign of King Roland I in the valley, the Painted Dog tribe launched a surprise attack on King Roland I. The defenseless king was pulled off his horse and beaten to death by a stone hammer before he could resist. This King Roland was the founder of the Eagle's Nest. When they stated their intention, they were not driven away or stopped. Many houses had fires flickering, and the white smoke was filled with the smell of meat. Occasionally, a few children were running barefoot, and they could see that they all had some burn scars. When the patrol took them to the bottom of a rock wall. Here, the wall was carved into a house, and there were several fields outside the house where some fruits and vegetables were planted. There was also a huge stone cave carved next to the stone house. After arriving here, all the Painted Dog tribe members bowed to the stone cave. An old woman lived in the stone house. After hearing the noise, she walked out slowly, and the people of the Painted Dog tribe saluted her one after another. The leader who brought coal and the others here walked to the side of the old woman and said something to her. She nodded slightly, and her drooping cheeks looked quite kind. Tyrion guessed in his heart that this old woman should be a figure like the elders of the Painted Dog tribe. At this time, besides Cole and Bronn, only Shiga and Timett were willing to follow Tyrion. Zira and the others refused to enter the Painted Dog tribe, as if there was something terrible here. They stayed outside the mountain and waited there. After the leading Painted Dog tribe member returned, the old man returned to the house and took out a torch. "What are they doing?" Tyrion asked Shiga in confusion. The old fool grinned. The one-eyed Timett also smiled evilly. If the half-man wants to negotiate with the people of the Painted Dog tribe, he must accept their trial. Trial. The old woman walked towards the entrance of the cave with a torch. Her steps were slow, and Cole was worried that she would fall at any time. She stopped at the entrance of the cave and threw the torch in her hand into the dark cave. The stone cave, which was originally dead silent, suddenly roared, and a red light was reflected on Tyrion's face. His mouth opened so wide that it felt like 2 eggs could fit in it. Tyrion's eyes widened as he watched the raging fire in the stone cave. The flames spread across the surface, bringing waves of heat. Beads of sweat appeared on his forehead one after another, and an ominous premonition surged in his heart. The stone cave was crackling non-stop, the stones were exploding, and the flames were roaring. Shiga dropped the iron axe in his hand and shouted, "I am Shiga, son of Dov." He rushed towards the fire cave without reason like a rushing buffalo. The flames roared and swallowed him. A black shadow was seen moving in the red sky and earth. Timett, son of Timett. The one-eyed red hand also jumped in. When they rushed out of the cave with flames all over their bodies and tattered clothes, there were cheers outside the cave. Many people from the Painted Dog tribe put down their food and ran over to watch. Shiga raised a white stone. Under the flames, it seemed as if the light was flowing. He slapped his chest hard and roared loudly. Timett also took out a white stone and was patting the flames on his body. Tyrion swallowed his saliva. He turned his eyes to Cole and Bronn and saw that they were also shocked. He couldn't help but step back a few steps. Suddenly, an iron spear hit his back. It was the warriors of the Painted Dog tribe. "I won't do such a stupid thing like the barbarians," Bronn said directly, although he was very confident in his speed. "You are a spineless flatlander." The onlookers of the Painted Dog tribe suddenly started to make a noise. Tyrion tried to explain to the guys with spears behind him, "I just want to talk to your chieftain about something good." The man shook his head, a spineless person is not worthy of staying in the painted dog tribe. Then I asked to leave. Several spears surrounded them, forcing them to move forward. You are a spineless flatlander. The noise had not yet fallen. Helplessness flashed in Tyrion's eyes. It seems that our friends in the painted dog tribe hope that we can respect their strange customs. He looked at the two again. So who will go first? Cole said something in Bronn's ear, and stepped forward to pick up Tyrion by the waist. He looked up in surprise and met Cole's resolute eyes. His body swayed, and in a trance, the surging waves of fire rushed straight in front of him. Tyrion's heart tightened, and he suddenly closed his eyes and shouted. Tyrion, son of Tywin! A loud bang made his ears buzz. When he opened his eyes again, he saw a red world and crackling stones. Cole was as fast as the wind, and the flames behind him rose up in long ripples. Before Tyrion could react, he was thrown out of the cave. The fire snakes of the flames licked his face, licked his buttocks, and burned his hair and clothes. He didn't dare to scream, fearing that the flames would jump into his throat. Puff! He flew out of the flames and was caught in mid-air. The man held the dwarf in one hand and caught a white stone with the other hand. When Bronn put Tyrion down, he was still in shock. He looked into the flame cave and made up his mind, Lannister must pay his debts. Bronn also rushed into the flames, and soon he came out with a white stone. Cole's figure was still missing, and someone made a regretful sound. Shaga's face also showed regret. Cole was a warrior he recognized. Bronn shook his head, I didn't see him in there. Tyrion's face became solemn. In the cave, clothes fell off with the flames, and the last strand of hair on his head was burned. Cole touched his red skin, and the flames seemed to be useless to him. A piece of broken stone flew over with a snap, and he dodged it nimbly. He felt something in the cave calling him, and the flames surrounded Cole very obediently. Although he didn't understand it, he was no longer surprised when he thought of his identity as a time traveler, the giant force in the eye of time. The flames stopped at the end of the cave, surrounding a piece of dry bones. The bones were as black as night, like a huge shadow in a red glow. Facing the entrance of the cave was a huge skull, with a curved forehead and a bloody mouth. Cole quickly realized that this was the remains of a giant dragon. Why would a giant dragon die in a cave in the Moon Mountains? He walked to the side of the dragon bone and gently touched the burning dragon bone. He felt that the texture was very comfortable. For a moment, a silver-haired girl flashed through his mind. He wondered if she had hatched the dragon egg. Thinking of the body of the dragon mother that was invulnerable to fire, Cole couldn't help but wonder if he was also a descendant of the Targaryen family. After all, King Aegon Targaryen IV left his descendants everywhere in Westeros, and he could be called the Westeros version of King Jing of Zhongshan. Maybe he was the great-great-grandson of King Yong. Such thoughts made him laugh. He wanted to climb the royal family, and he was crazy about it. And the one sitting on the Iron Throne now was not a Targaryen, and claiming to be a royal family was tantamount to death. Even if he really had the blood of the dragon family, he didn't know how many times it was diluted, and there was not even a little Targaryen feature on his body, and no one would believe it if he said it out loud. Chapter 34. Once, twice, he couldn't remember how many times this kid saved him. Tien, is it really worth saving a dwarf? The dwarf has nothing to offer you. The first time I saw him, he was still a timid boy, standing shivering in the cold wind, looking thin and helpless. But he caught his attention because of his good cooking skills. At that time, in order to entertain him, Mormont specially asked this boy to cook the food. The food was served very late. He was so hungry that he wanted to curse, but after taking a bite, all his anger disappeared. Tyrion didn't even remember how long it had been since he had eaten the meat he grilled. He was obviously a cook in the castle who cooked for nobles. He was so brave that he wanted to be a knight. Now that you are a knight, don't give up so easily, Cole. I also want my father to confer titles and fiefdoms on you. Why are you here? Although Tyrion thought he was used to life and death along the way, his heart still felt as painful as tearing. It had been a long time since he had been so sad for someone. He held back the tears flowing in his eyes. This was not the right time to shed a single tear. Tyrion said silently in his heart, I am a born devil with a heart of stone. This man just wants to cling to the Lannister family. But the more he thought like this, the less he could convince himself. Friend, friend? He chuckled, trying to cover up the sadness in his heart with laughter. But Bronn had already seen his red eyes clearly. A man doesn't shed tears lightly. Even if he shows coldness due to restraint, he can't really be cold inside. As Tyrion grieved, there was an uproar and noise, and all eyes were directed toward the cave of fire. A black shadow was gradually emerging from the flames, and the swaying waves of fire caused the shadow to sway together. All the free people's eyes widened. Is it 10 blinks or 100 blinks? They don't have any unit to measure time. Anyway, it is a long time. No one can live under the fire for that long, even if they have been exposed to it since childhood. Neither can the painting dog part of the fire nor the people of fire. Many people rush into the flames and only come out within a few seconds. There are white stones everywhere in the grotto. As long as they are picked out, they can prove that they are a decent free citizen and will be welcomed and recognized by the people of the flames. The figure was getting closer and closer, his eyes were close to the hole, and Tyrion was even sure that it was coal. Wow! The flames pulsed again, and the figure got closer and closer to the entrance of the cave. Everyone held their breath and focused their gaze firmly on the cave. The fire snake stung and jumped up and down, and finally, a figure stepped out of the door of flames. He was completely naked, and his hair and eyebrows were completely burned. I saw him holding a huge stone. Cole picked up the stone by mistake. Something in the stone seemed to be calling him, telling him, pick up the stone, otherwise he will regret it. Of course he didn't forget to pick up a white stone. Bron's eyes swept from top to bottom, finally stopping at his crotch, and he smiled meaningfully. Tyrion's heart relaxed and he also smiled. This boy is really not young. He must find a woman for him when he gets off the mountain. The old woman standing at the entrance of the cave trembled all over when she saw the stone in Cole's hand. She suddenly knelt down and kowtowed to Cole, shouting, Lord of Fire! Lord of Fire! Before Cole and the others could react, all the Painted Dog tribe members knelt down to follow the fire sacrifice. In an instant, the sound of shouting Lord of Fire came like a roaring tsunami, and people kept coming out of the house and kneeling on the ground. Cole stood helpless, with the scorching flames behind him, and only feeling a chill under his crotch. The flames seemed to be interested, and a roar of flames erupted from the cave, surrounding Cole's sides, as if to crown him. It seems that they have been conquered. Tyrion walked up. Cole handed him the stone and reached out to cover it. As soon as Tyrion caught the stone, he flicked it out instantly, burning a large piece of skin on his hand. Why is this stone so hot? The shouts of the freedmen grew louder and louder, and now only 4 of them, Cole, were standing. The old priest knelt and walked to Cole's side, and said with tears, Honorable King of Fire, you have finally favored your people again. Cole raised his mouth as if he had a toothache, and reached out to help the old woman. Tyrion stood beside him, tilted his head and shouted as well. The shouts rose and fell and continued. Even Time, the son of Time, the red hand of the burning department, knelt down in front of him. He said, Only the one who takes out the dragon stone from the flames, you are worthy to lead the people of fire. You are the real Red Hand, the king of the people of fire. After speaking, he took out the dagger and cut his palm open. My king, please accept my blood. He used his other hand to wipe blood on his cheek next to the empty eye sockets, which were the eyes he had burned off. He was born to fight for the Lord of Fire, not just him, but every fire people. Belief is really scary sometimes. Time raised his hand, Please let Time, son of Time, be your sharp blade, Lord of Fire. Cole is not interested in being the Fire Lord now, he just wants to find some clothes quickly. Several people from the Painted Dog tribe also stood up, came to Cole, knelt on one knee, took out a blade and cut open his palm. Duokai, son of Duokai, Pia of Pia, Harlan, son of Harlan, are willing to be your sharp blade, King of Fire. At this time, the fire priest brought a robe and knelt to offer it to Cole. King, please accept the loyalty of the people of fire. He opened and closed his mouth in astonishment, and slowly took the robe to cover his body. The people of fire can be traced back to the Age of Light, when the ancestors still ruled the Vale of Arryn. The King of Fire is the belief of the entire Vale of Arryn. It is rumored that the flaming sword in the hands of the Bronze King family and the bronze armor on their bodies were given by the King of Fire. However, the Bronze King family has betrayed the ancestors and they have turned to the gods of the mountain people. The King of Fire will pull out the Sword of Light from the flames and then repel the enemies from the north. This is a legend passed down from generation to generation by the people of fire until about 200 years ago when the Fire Witch brought a new prophecy. The Fire Witch and her dragon live in the Trial Cave. The dragon stone is what she left behind. She predicted that when the ice comes, the reincarnation of the Flame King will come to the Painted Dog tribe again, pick up the dragon stone, and lead the brave free people to take back their homeland. Every child who grew up in the Painted Dog tribe has seen the dragon stone. It is quietly placed there, looking very peaceful. Someone once wanted to steal it, but it was burned to ashes by the flames. Countless people who think they are the Flame King have rushed into the trial land to bring out the dragon stone, but only one person has returned alive in hundreds of years. That person is the Red Hand of the Burning Tribe that was separated later. Chapter 35. When is your name day, Cole? Tyrion asked him while sitting by the fire. Cole had just come back from riding a horse, exhausted. When he put on the red robe, he was already the leader of the people of fire, 3 tribes, the Painted Dogs, the Burning Men, and the Redsmiths. Although the 3 tribes all call themselves the people of fire, it does not mean that there is no friction between them. The Painted Dogs claim to be the authentic people of fire, and look down on the other 2 separated tribes. The hot-tempered Burning Men will not tolerate them. They have been unhappy with the Painted Dogs for more than 1 or 2 days. The Redsmiths have always been caught between the 2 tribes, and are in a dilemma. The Painted Dogs have a deep foundation and have always been the first tribe in the Moon Mountains. The entire tribe has a population of more than 3,000, and the number of warriors who can fight is close to 2,000. As a rising star that has only emerged in the past 100 years, the Burning Men have only about 1,000 warriors, but their notoriety can be said to make every freeman feel terrified. Even the reputation can be spread to the plain people. The Painted Dog tribe has always been low-key. They have lived in seclusion in the depths of the Moon Mountains for thousands of years. If it weren't for the limited land and the lack of population, they would have sounded the horn of counterattacking the Eyrie. The Burning Man tribe is just the opposite. They are the most active tribe in the Moon Mountains. They have had disputes with most of the mountain clans and tribes, and they can still live well. Cole picked up the meat roasted on the fire and ate it. Although he is the king of fire, his prestige is not enough. People's beliefs also have their own weights. Not everyone is a loyal believer. They kneel to Cole more to follow the trend. People are more concerned about themselves, let alone the free people. Name day? It should have passed. Cole took a bite of the meat, and the juice splashed in his mouth. The taste is indescribable. Anyway, the original meat is like that. Tyrion can restrain the free people well through interests. His prestige is even higher than Cole, and he himself does not care about the conflicts between those tribes. After all, it is just an employment relationship. Cole is different. Whenever there is a dispute between the 3 tribes under his command, they will go to him first. All day long, there are trivial matters, either fighting over the ownership of a sheep or fighting after a verbal dispute. Let alone finding someone to control them, the leaders of the tribes themselves quarrel all day long. Where have we gone? Cole asked. He has been troubled by the trivial matters of the 3 tribes these days. We have left the Moon Mountains and will see the flat land tomorrow. Bronn used a branch to fork the charcoal fire. Are you not with your free brothers today? Recently, Cole has been staying with Timett and the others every day. All the tribal leaders have sworn a blood oath to him, and Cole is now controlling the entire tribe through them. It is really not an easy task to lead more than 3,000 fire people warriors. The tribal leaders under him are divided into 3 parts, and there are many opinions. At this time, Cole, who lacks management experience, seems to be stretched to the limit. Cole knew very well that such opportunities were rare. In this world where chaos was approaching, holding a force would give him more initiative. I asked Timett and the others to go to the tribe to select warriors. Tyrion took a sip of wine, which he brought from the Painted Dogs. Do you really want to be the Flame King? If the war really breaks out, I think it would be much more useful to bring a group of people than one person. Tyrion nodded, but why do you want to select warriors? To resolve their conflicts. Conflicts? Yes, there is a deep grudge between the Painted Dogs and the Burning People, which is a problem accumulated over the years. I want to divert their conflicts, or set up a new enemy for them. The clever Tyrion reacted quickly and clapped his hands and said, free people often cooperate with each other when fighting against enemies. So the next day, a story like this spread among the Flame People. The Flame King wanted to form his own Flame Guard, and only the 300 most courageous Flame People could become true warriors. They will become the closest warriors of the Flame King, holding the flaming sword and following the Flame King to fight all over the world. When the Flame People heard the sound, they gathered under a high platform, which was built overnight by Cole's people. Dong dong dong, suddenly the sound of drums sounded. In fact, it was just a simple leather drum wrapped in a few sheepskins, but it still made the noisy free people quiet down. Accompanied by the drums, a team of cavalry slowly walked down the hill and surrounded a man wearing a blood-red cloak. They rode their horses around the high platform in a circle, and all the Flame people saw the face of the Flame King clearly. He jumped off the horse, his cloak dancing in the wind, and slowly climbed onto the high platform under the kneeling of more than a dozen tribal leaders. Flame people! His voice resounded through the sky. When I picked up the stone, the fire priest told me that I was the reincarnation of the Fire King. I don't understand why a stone can lead the brave people of the fire, just like you don't understand why a boy under 16 can become your king. A bundle of firewood had been piled up on the platform. Cole took the torch handed over by Timot and threw it into the firewood. With a bang, the flames shot up into the sky in an instant, then let the flames give us the answer now. He pulled out a sword and inserted it into the fire. In an instant, the sword also burned. He raised the sword high and then walked down. The crowd dispersed and made a passage for him. The flaming sword was burning in his hand, and the scorching breath forced people to retreat. He walked around the people of fire with the sword, and everyone watched silently. At this moment, they really felt the extraordinariness of the Fire King. Cole walked up to the platform again and asked loudly, "God gave me the power to not fear fire, and also gave me the mission to lead the people of fire, so free warriors, are you willing to fight for me?" The Fire King! Timot was the first to shout. In an instant, the crowd's voices were mighty, like a wave of raging flames. Tyrion watched from a distance. Cole played this scene well, at least his prestige among the people of fire would be raised to a higher level. I will recruit the bravest warriors of the people of fire to accompany me. You will be my sharpest blade, my most trusted brothers, and my partners when I return to the kingdom of God. Who dares to raise this sword? He inserted the flaming sword into the fire. Timot jumped up instantly, then drew out his sword, raised it high, and thrust it back into the fire. Timot, son of Timot, your bravery is witnessed by the flames. Cole slashed his palm with a dagger, smearing blood on his face. The first 300 people who drew their swords became the first batch of flame guards. At the same time, Cole also set a rule that if you want to become a flame guard, you must defeat a current flame guard under the witness of the flames. The flame guard is the enemy he set up, an enemy of all the flame people. As long as he is still the king of flame, he will hang this title high, making it the most resounding honor among the flame people and the goal of all the flame people. After the show, Cole quickly took off the cloak. This red cloak was full of goat blood and smelled very bad. Sure enough, in the next few days, there were fewer conflicts among the flame people, and they were fighting every day. All Cole had to do was sit and watch them wrestle. Chapter 36. Cole's reputation reached its peak when he single-handedly defeated the 3 largest warriors among the 3 fire people. Power is what warriors admire most. Now the Fire Lord deserves his title. He has defeated some of the strongest people in the tribe and has been recognized by the flames. Is there any doubt about this? Just follow him. Tyrion and the others led nearly 5,000 aborigines this time. The Free People and the Fire People were divided into 2 groups. Cole led his Fire People warriors to walk behind the team, responsible for preventing the Valley cavalry from invading from behind. But this worry is obviously unnecessary. The lady who is now managing the valley doesn't know what she is afraid of. The team was huge and destined to march slowly, so the Alpine clans were traveling lightly. Cole was riding a pony in the center of the team, flanked by 300 flame guards. All of these boys were now bruised and swollen. Thinking that after leaving the valley, they were likely to encounter war, Cole ended it. Instead, the rules for the selection of flame guards were changed to a martial arts competition after the annual harvest feast. Controlling 300 people is much easier than controlling 3,000 people. Moreover, he has set up 10 captains among the flame guards, all of whom are served by the original tribal leaders. Each of them is responsible for managing 30 people, and they are not themselves a warrior from the original tribe. These warriors will then manage other flame people warriors in batches. In this way, he was much less stressed. He gained a certain amount of power and sense of accomplishment by managing other flame guards. He naturally felt that he was different from others, and understood the privileges of the flame guards, thus supporting Cole. Of course, these people are not necessarily good candidates for management, but now we can only push out those with higher martial arts first. After all, the fire people are still essentially barbarians who advocate force. Time is a rare talent. He is not as stubborn as other firemen. This can be seen from the moment he heard that Tyrion came to recruit troops. He is cruel enough to himself and even more cruel to others, and he is still very young. From the first time he surrendered to Cole and offered his oath, it can be seen that he is a person who knows how to judge the situation well. His smell even rivals that of Bronn. Speaking of Bronn, here he comes. After Cole became the Lord of Fire, he became the guardian of the little devil. The dwarf seems to have something to ask you. He walked over casually, his eyes full of sloppiness, at least that's how he looked when he wasn't fighting. For some reason, Cole always felt that Bronn's eyes were always looking down on him. When the two found Tyrion, they saw him frowning. What's wrong? Cole asked him. Shigar and the others asked me to provide them with food. They walked too slowly and the food has been consumed. Tyrion patted his empty clothes. I only have a little silver deer left on me now. Thinking of Taime's report to him in the morning, it seemed that the flame people were running out of food. It seems we have to find a way, the fire people don't have enough food. He originally wanted to ask Cole for help, but he was obviously going to be disappointed. This was also his father's fault. All the villages and taverns within a 10-mile radius were wiped out by the Lannister army, and they couldn't find any food at all. I dare not bet on what will happen to the hungry free people. Tyrion said helplessly. Cole didn't dare to bet on whether the hungry flame people would recognize him as the King of Flame, and the two fell into silence. At this time, a free man walked past them gnawing on a chicken leg, and the two looked at each other in confusion. Free men did not raise chickens. Could it be that there are villages or hunting woods around? Cole caught him and asked him. The boy was young and was a patrolman of the free people. He was very honest and said that he caught the chicken from a flatlander's house. He also said that Xiaojie and the others had already led people to rob things. The free people were predatory, and Tyrion was the first to think of the possibility of a village. He quickly urged Cole to mount his horse and let the patrolman lead them to stop Shaga. They arrived early on horseback. It was indeed a small settlement, but it was just an inn. There were sparse people walking between the stables and the tavern. The shopkeeper is a fat man with a bald head and a rather kind smile. I am Tyrion Lannister. The little devil took the lead in revealing his identity. I wonder, Lord Lannister, if you want to stay in an inn? The innkeeper asked. Tyrion threw the money bag to him. I want to book this tavern. This is the deposit. Prepare your food. I need enough for 5,000 people. 5,000 people. The tavern owner opened his mouth wide and looked embarrassed. Sir, this is too much. We don't have so much food at all. At this time, Shaga appeared in the field of vision with a group of people. Tyrion pointed at them. Have you seen my barbarian men? As for the food, you have to figure it out yourself, and the money will not be short of you. If they are not satisfied, then it will be a fat man who puts it on the table. Tyrion threatened. By the way, prepare 2 good rooms for me and the knight next to me, as well as 2 jugs of wine, 2 roasted squabs, and fresh cheese. It's best to add some onions. Yes, yes, Lord Lannister. The shopkeeper was sweating profusely, and there were beads of sweat on his forehead. Recently, Lannister's name has been called the God of Plague in the Riverlands. The last time he voluntarily received the Lannister family's sergeant only survived. At this time, Xiaojie came up with a puzzled look on his face. Why is a half-man here? I'm looking for something to eat for you. Shiga frowned. The half-man wants to steal the prey of the Stone Crow tribe. Tyrion raised his head and looked at him directly. Shiga, you promised to listen to me on the plain. Gold coins are more useful here. Go and call all your people here. We will stay here for the next few days. Shiga thought of the promise he made to the half-man, so he could only nod and lead his people to retreat. Cole also wanted to go back and lead the tribe over. As soon as Tyrion walked into the tavern, several people sitting and drinking stood up. Master Tyrion. A knight from the Lannister family, wearing red and black armor, a lion-shaped helmet on his head, and a red cloak buckled from his shoulders. When Cole arrived with a huge group of flame people, the place was already crowded with people, and Cole could only garrison outside. The free people's camping is nothing more than lighting a fire. Sleeping in the open air is nothing to the free people. They are not delicate knights. Tyrion quickly found him. There were several armored knights around the kid. Obviously, he found the organization. Cole, it looks like we have to go somewhere, he said as soon as they met. Led by the knight, they headed towards the King's Road. Chapter 37. The charred fields, the farmhouse turned to ashes, and a few half-burned wooden boards twisted and slumped in the foundation. A few crows circled in the air. These damn blackbirds always like to eat carrion. It seems that there has been a fierce battle here, although there are no corpses. The Lannister knights led them through a narrow passage. A mud wall was across the gorge. Watchtowers stood on both sides of the wall. There were sentinels on guard. After the guards saw that they were Lannister knights, they let them pass. Passing through the gorge, a huge camp came into view. The wooden fence surrounded the camp. The outside was a wooden cone standing horizontally. There were spearmen and archers distributed for defense. Obviously, the camp was now ready for battle. Between the tents, cavalrymen patrolled back and forth, with flags fluttering in the wind. Following Tyrion, besides Belongacor, there was also Timet, who was inseparable from Kor. The free folk leaders who were afraid that he would escape, namely Shagga and Zira, also followed. A team of patrolling cavalrymen came up, and the leading knight was wearing silver armor, with a unicorn-shaped pattern inlaid with amethyst on his chest, wearing a purple and silver cape, and a spiral horn cast on his helmet. The visitor was Sir Fleamont Brax, whose family emblem was a purple unicorn with a silver bottom. The Brax family's fiefdom was the Westerhorn Valley city, and it was one of the main vassals of the Lannister family. He obviously recognized Tyrion. "My lord, we thought you were." Tyrion exchanged a few words with him, and then he was going to see his father. Sir Flevman ordered his men to lift the wooden fence and make a passage for them to come in. Lord Tywin was in a tavern. He had requisitioned a tavern at a crossroads as his headquarters. As they walked along, the wildlings and Cole couldn't help but look surprised. There were about 20,000 people in this camp, with dense tents. Soldiers camped in the open air, and the nobles' tents were like palaces. Pedestrians came and went, but they all retreated when they saw the cavalry. Tyrion looked at the countless familiar flags, and was obviously a little proud. After passing through the camp, they came to a ruin. Almost all the houses were burned down. Only the tavern at the intersection was still safe and sound. Obviously, that was Lord Tywin's base camp. The stables and the inn were nestled together, and the stable boy ran out of the stable to lead the horse. Shagga frightened them away with his teeth bared. Not to mention Shagga's beard and huge physique, he looked really intimidating. The guards in red robes and lion helmets were guarding the door. When they saw Tyrion, they saluted quickly. Tyrion asked Cole and the others to wait at the door, and then he went in. Shagga held his nose and paced back and forth at the door. He asked Cole, chief of the Painted Dog tribe, "What are half a man doing in there?" Cole pushed him away. The big guy was smelly and his mouth smelled like snail noodles. He should be talking to his father. Freemen have the right to participate in any meeting. Shagga suddenly shouted. Obviously, Zira and the others thought so too. They looked at Cole and heard him say, "I'm not a freeman, but I advise you to wait at the door." Obviously, the guys completely ignored his advice. Shagga stepped in, but was stopped by the guards of the Lannister family. This kid didn't let him in, so he just forced his way in. With his physique, he rushed in directly, and the two guards flew in. "Listen to my roar," Tyrion said with a smile to Lord Tywin. Although the father and son don't get along, on the surface, they get along pretty well. This sentence is exactly the motto of the Lannister family, but the world is more familiar with the sentence "A Lannister must pay his debts." There was a sound at the door, and two Lannister lion guards fell to the ground, and the huge figure of Shagga squeezed in. He broke the guard's sword and threw it on the ground, and the whole person looked like a fierce beast. Cole was the last to come in. Sir Kevin Lannister, who had been sitting next to Lord Tywin, started to fight, his eyes full of anger. He is Tyrion's uncle and Lord Tywin's brother. He was about to open his mouth to scold, but he saw Tyrion walked in front of Shagga. Lord Tywin asked, "Tyrion, who are these people?" His tone was cold, and he couldn't hear any joy or anger, and he felt that there was no emotion. "Dad, they come home with me," Tyrion explained. "Can they stay? These people can't eat much. Why did they disrupt our meeting?" Sir Kevin was obviously still angry. "Free folk have a natural right to attend all war meetings," said Khan of the Stone Crows. "Who among you is the chief of the lions?" asked Zira, the leader of the Black Ears. Sir Kevin had already reached out to draw his sword, but was stopped by Lord Tywin. Tyrion, where are your manners? Why don't you introduce the guests? Tyrion grinned, I'm very happy to do so. He pointed at Shagga and Khan, this is Khan of the Stone Crows, and this big guy is Shagga, son of Dolf. After introducing the free folk, Tyrion turned to Cole, as for this handsome boy, he is a famous knight in the Seven Kingdoms, Sir Cole and the Lord of the Fire people. Not the Lord, but the Lord of the Fire, Timette corrected. Lord of the Fire, Sir Kevin showed disdain on his face. Finally, Bronn was introduced. Lord Tywin stood still and looked at them. He suddenly stood up, and in an instant, the pressure from the superior came. For the first time, Cole knew that momentum really existed. His every move could make people feel pressured. Even though I am in the West, I have heard about the heroic deeds of the warriors of the Moon Mountain tribe, so what is the purpose of your coming here? The half-man promised Shagga armor and axes. Shagga said. At this time, the messenger suddenly came to report, Your Excellency, Sir Adam asked me to report that Stark's army has moved south. Tywin pondered slightly, his eyes were like ice, and there was a hint of joy in his tone, but his face was still cold. It seems that the wolf cub has moved. Everyone who knows him knows that Lord Tywin never smiles. Very good, you go and tell Sir Adam to lead the army to retreat. Before the main force arrives, he must not fight the northerners head-on. You can send cavalry to harass the enemy's wings. He ordered the messenger. He continued to make several war deployments, and then Tyrion suddenly reminded him, I heard that the warriors of the tribesmen are the bravest warriors in the world. That's right, Shagga will cut off the enemy's second brother and roast him with fire. Shagga roared. Tywin's golden eyes stared at Tyrion coldly, fight with me, I promise that I will fulfill all Tyrion's promises. Why should we believe you? Zira asked. I didn't say you have to believe me, it's enough for you to believe in my son. That's just a polite remark. If you want to leave, please go. But I heard that the enemies from the north are all made of black ice. If they meet them, even my knights will be terrified. If you are afraid. Before he finished speaking, Shagga shouted, Free men are not afraid of snowmen, I will cut off their roots. Timett looked up at Cole, who was calm and composed. The Fire King really wanted to lead them to fight against the enemies from the north. Chief Lion, we can fight for you, but the half-man must follow us. His life is ours until his promise is fulfilled. Zira said. Tyrion laughed, of course, the half-man is with you. At this time, Cole, who had been silent, suddenly said, Lord Lannister, if you want us to fight for you, you should let us know your battle plan. I don't think Stark will fight you head-on. The golden eyes were like frost, and Cole looked at him fearlessly, Your friend is very interesting, Tyrion. He saw at a glance that this child was not a mountain man. Chapter 38. The army from the north will move south along the King's Road, and we will meet the enemy here. Tyrion was explaining Lannister's battle plan to the barbarians. He drew things from east to west on a simple map, and the tribal people stared at him. Originally they were clamoring for democratic discussion and everyone could express their opinions. As a result, I can't hold back a word now. The wartime meetings of the tribesmen usually focus on discussions about who to fight in front, and how to divide the enemy after the fight, which would be as troublesome as the Flatlanders. In fact, Tyrion also knew who his group of people were. He was more interested in explaining to Cole that after all, most of the people were under the command of the Lord of Fire. Are we responsible for the left wing? Cole frowned, his eyebrows just growing out. Tyrion nodded, yes, the mountain leads his knights with us. Cole pointed to the map, the Kingdom Avenue goes down the Green Fork River. It is flat in the west and high in the east. The flat left wing is obviously more suitable for cavalry charges. However, the cavalry of several of our tribes only totals more than 600, and they are not suitable for charges. Pony. Tyrion doesn't understand military matters, but he also knows that flat ground is more suitable for cavalry charges. So which army will Lord Tywin lead? Cole asked. Tyrion shook his head, they didn't tell me anything about the deployment except that we were responsible for the left wing. Cole frowned deeper and said with certainty, we are bait. Tyrion fell into deep thought. He understood his father, Cole's guess and Lord Tywin's behavior. The armor and weapons that the Lannister gave them were all stolen along the way, and they were all old junk from the warehouses of the nobles in the Riverlands. Tyrion knew it just by looking at the sigils on those shields. Tofu and the others were all ecstatic, fighting for each other happily. Cole also grabbed a suit of armor, a chain armor to protect his head and a nose-protecting semicircular helmet, which was almost similar to a Western Norman helmet. Wrapped in chain armor and leather armor, although the defense is not perfect, it is better than dexterity, and plate armor is such a valuable weapon that Lannister will not be kind enough to leave it to them. Seeing such a hodgepodge of troops, do you think those veterans of the northern border killing field would not be able to tell that this is a hodgepodge of troops? A miscellaneous army appears in a favorable position where the cavalry can charge. The cavalry in the north will inevitably charge, unless their commander is an extra cautious person, and it is obvious that the young wolf leader is just a fledgling with no hair growing. Boy! Tywin is also betting that if the cavalry disperses the wildling army on the left and inserts itself into the battlefield from this side, it will cause immeasurable damage to the Lannister army and may even cause them to lose the battle. So he chose the battlefield under a hill. He would lead the 5,000 elite troops of the Lannister family to station on the high ground. As soon as the wildlings collapsed, he would immediately devote his combat power to the left wing and let his 2 men thousands and 500 fine cavalry fought against them head-on. Another 2,500 infantrymen prevented the disintegration on the battlefield. If we really want to face the main force in the north, there will be heavy casualties, Tyrion. Cole's purple eyes looked at him faintly. He didn't care about the life or death of these barbarians, but he felt upset when he thought about going to the battlefield. What Dad did was indeed unethical, but it was very Tywin. I will tell my father properly. He stood up. Cole's change made him feel unprepared. The boy who followed him silently and said nothing changed. This change started when he became the Lord of Fire. Of course, it does not mean that he became arrogant and complacent once he became powerful. Tyrion felt that he had become more confident and more confident. No matter what, Cole saved his life after all and accompanied him through life and death several times, and that was enough. I don't understand what the half-man said, but Xiaojie helped the half-man fight. After getting the equipment, Xiaojie was very happy. Tyrion nodded slightly to him. He was going to find his father now to ask about this matter. The Stark brats have already garrisoned the narrow passage in advance, and we are one step late. Sir Kevin Lannister pointed at the map and talked. Lord Tywin always sat with a frosty face and said nothing, watching his men argue. At this time, Tyrion happened to come in. Tyrion, I didn't remember recruiting you. Tywin asked in a majestic tone. Tyrion was not at all afraid of this majestic lion. He picked up the jug on the table and poured himself some wine. The free people are dissatisfied with you for using them as bait. Tywin's eyes narrowed slightly. He had told few people about this, and he didn't think those savages had this ability. Otherwise, I don't know that I have been huddled in the Minjiao Mountains for so many years. What do you mean? Tyrion. Zhizi Moruofu, even if he dislikes his dwarf son, he still knows that he has a little cleverness in his head. Yes. Tyrion drank the wine in one gulp. Then you know what I mean. You are still a Lannister, Tyrion. I will let the mountain protect you. Haha, Tyrion smiled disdainfully. Why not let this shameful Lannister die on the battlefield with dignity? I think my son seems to have some misunderstanding. My lords, this is the end of today's meeting. I have to have a good talk with him. Tywin stood up. The others all bowed and left. As Sir Kevin passed Tyrion, he whispered, "You should not embarrass your father." Tyrion just looked up and looked back. After everyone left, Tywin took the wine jug and poured out 2 cups of wine, then handed one to Tyrion. So what do you want? A fiefdom, a title. Tyrion took the wine glass with a smile. For your friend the Fire King. Tyrion smiled but said nothing. It would be better if a girl from the Lannister family married him. Tyrion continued. I saw a flash of sharpness in Lord Tywin's eyes. You should know the 2 biggest shames of my life. Tyrion's smile gradually stopped. How could he not know that one was that he gave birth to a dwarf son, and the other was that his sister married the Frey family? If your friend wants to get what he wants, let him come here by himself. Lord Tywin said this and walked into the inner room, no longer paying attention to his dwarf son. When Tyrion returned to Cole's erected tent, his face was terribly gloomy. Cole felt that he should not have reached an agreement with his father. Cole consoled him, "You should trust the warriors of the free people, Tyrion. Even if we face cavalry, we may not lose. If you don't believe me, ask Shiga." The fool immediately started to yell, and he shouted that he wanted to cut off the second brother of the northerner. Tyrion forced a smile. At this time, Cole said again, I thought about it carefully, and the war may not develop as we thought. Chapter 39. Tyrion, you'd better give me a good reason. Lord Tywin was obviously unhappy with his son's repeated interruptions. Well, you said it. He pushed Cole out, now the people are here. Tywin sat down at the center of the table, really? I heard that you want to marry someone from the Lannister family. Cole's face was full of question marks, what does this mean? He looked at Tyrion with a puzzled look, so what did you say to Lord Tywin? Ahem, Dad, you'd better listen to Cole's advice first. He turned his golden eyes, what does this Fire King think? Cole nodded, and he walked to the map, Lord Lannister, please look here. He pointed to Riverrun, you can cross the Green Fork directly from here, and then cross the Trident to reach the heart of the Riverlands. If the Stark cavalry comes from here, they can support Riverrun, or rush to our rear. You mean old Frey from Luanhi City will help the Stark boy, he doesn't have the courage. Then please look here. Cole pointed to another place on the map, that is White Harbor. Duke Tywin finally showed doubt on his face, but he concealed it well. Cole continued, the ships here can directly reach the Vale of Arryn, and messengers from the north can depart from here. As soon as the Bloody Gate is opened, the Vale Knights will rush down and reach our rear. My lord, you should know that the people in charge of the Vale of Arryn are relatives of the Stark family. The Lannister scouts will report to us by then. Lord Tywin said very impolitely. How could he not be on guard against the Vale? If that's what you want to say, then I think you should go down and have a good rest. There will be a fierce battle next, and I have high hopes for you. No, Lord Lannister. Cole shook his head, I know you want to use us as bait to lure out the main force of the Stark family, but what I want to say is that the tribesmen, Tyrion, and even the Mountain are just small baits. The real big bait is your eldest son, Sir Jaime. He continued, the Northern Army is coming down from the north. Even if they are defeated, they can retreat to the neck and defend the Moat Cailin. There, even if we have 10 times the number of troops, we can't take it down. And what about the Lannister army? Cole asked back. If any army appears in the south, our retreat will be completely destroyed, whether it is the Stark cavalry, the Vale of Arryn cavalry, or even the army of Stannis. As long as they support Riverrun, with the help of both inside and outside, Sir Jaime who is besieging the city will surely be defeated. By then, we will be fighting the Northern Army and cannot rush to help, and there is also a Green Fork River blocking the way. Forgive me, my lord. Sometimes people can't trust their own consciousness too much. Maybe you have felt it in King's Landing 10 years ago. Tyrion couldn't help but sigh in his heart, oh no. Few people dared to talk about that in front of Tywin. Sure enough, Lord Tywin's eyes became cold. You said that people from the north would come from Luanhi City, and that the armies of the Arryn Vale and Stannis would rush to Riverrun to help. How can you be sure? The Arryn Vale has always been on the same line with the north, and Lord Stannis, with his strategic vision, must know where his opponents are. Of course, the two behind were all made up by Cole to fool Tywin. One of them just wanted to be a turtle, and the other couldn't even summon many people. The northern cavalry would definitely cross Luanhi City. The young Wolf Lord was very bold. Someone told me that in war, all factors should be considered properly and all hidden dangers should be resolved. Otherwise, victory or defeat can only be left to the gods. This sentence finally made Tywin's eyes fluctuate. How sure are you? 9 points. Cole said confidently, leaving one variable for the gods. A smile appeared on Tywin Lannister's face, and this smile directly shocked Tyrion. What did he see? His father smiled, as if he had never seen it since he could remember. Take your people with you. I will let Kevin lead 1,000 cavalry to support Riverrun. If there is an attack, you will command and wait until I lead the troops to help. I will give you the fiefdom, the title, and the woman. Cole was stunned, and so was Tyrion. Dad, why don't you let Cole go with me? Tyrion asked. Tywin just glanced at him, take your friends down. I still need to rest. When returning to the tent, Cole was still a little confused. He just wanted to remind Tywin to prevent the Frey family from defecting to the north and to brush up his presence. Tywin's army will win the battle against the old Skinner Roose Bolton without any accident. Cole only needs to perform bravely in this battle and lead his flame people to fight bravely. At that time, he will be in Tywin's eyes, and he can still accompany Tyrion to King's Landing. If the young wolf's plan is thwarted, no one will be able to stop the Lannister army. When Tywin returns to King's Landing, he can show his ability and get the territory and title. Bronn did the same thing. And Cole is confident that he can do better than him. But you need 3,000 people to stop the young wolf. Are you serious? Oh, I forgot, there are also 1,000 cavalrymen of Kevin Lannister. Isn't it because I was attracted by Robb Stark's superb military talent that I surrendered to him, even though he didn't even look at him? But it is undeniable that Robb's ability to lead troops is not as good as that of Duke Tywin, a veteran of the battlefield, let alone Cole, who led troops for the first time. Can this task be handed over to someone else? Cole said to Tyrion with a bitter face. He looked puzzled. This is a good opportunity. It's much more comfortable to follow my brother Jaime than to be with my father. You just need to tell him that you are my friend, and he will definitely meet him. Don't worry, believe my brother, he is the youngest Kingsguard in history. The youngest Kingsguard is good at holding a sword, but it's hard to say whether he can lead troops to fight. And he will soon become a prisoner of the Stark family like you. Of course, Cole didn't say this. The next day, Sir Kevin came to him with an indignant look on his face. His elder brother Tywin actually wanted him to follow a barbarian kid to lead the army to support Riverrun, and he also wanted to hand over the command to this hairless boy. Kevin, a veteran who had fought for many years, was unwilling to accept it, so he was looking for trouble with Cole. Of course, he had already quarreled with his elder brother. Sir Kevin. Cole was about to leave the tent. The old guy propped up his hand and put it directly on Cole's chest, trying to push him against the wooden railing. Cole didn't move, but just looked at him with a half-smile. I think we don't have any grudges, sir. Chapter 40. Tyrion hugged the camp prostitute that Bronn had found for him. He originally wanted to find one for Cole, but 2 days ago he and his uncle Kevin led troops to Riverrun to support his brother. The girl named She was sleeping quietly, while Tyrion stared at the cone of the tent in ecstasy. Cole asked for 400 horses, which, together with his original 600 cavalry, formed a cavalry battalion of 1,000 men. The remaining people were led by the red-handed man who dug out one of his eyes. Then, follow the army to fight the Northerners. Tyrion now nominally leads 4,000 people, but he knows that none of these people will really listen to him. Only those closest to him are the Stone Crows, who can barely give orders. Tyrion has a deep understanding of how capable these tribesmen are of causing trouble, robbing things, killing people, and getting into fights over trivial matters. His father warned him several times that if he could not restrain these barbarians, he would ask the soldiers to show them some color. Tyrion knew that this was just his father trying to scare him. The war was approaching, and Stark's northern territory, the army, is already less than a day away from here. Civil unrest is not an option. After all, it was the eve of the decisive battle. Father Tywin hosted a banquet for the knights and nobles in his barracks. Tyrion also went, but he was so angry that he hadn't even had a good meal yet. It's not just Tyrion who's offended, Cole is too. Sir Kevin had a strong opinion of him and was sarcastic along the way. If he hadn't stopped him, his hot-tempered firemen would have killed him long ago. Of course, the knights around him are not vegetarians, and he will definitely suffer if they fight. Fortunately, they were already close to Riverrun. All they had to do was bring the news before the young Wolf Lord led his northern knights to kill the Lannister army, and then gather the 3 armies besieging the city into a compressed formation to hold on. It is definitely no problem to go up for 4 or 5 days, and it is even possible to force the cavalry back. After all, there are tens of thousands of troops here. They led the army up the hill, where they could already see Riverrun in the distance. Looking at the sparks there, interspersing with the stars in the sky, Sir Kevin couldn't help but mock. I'm afraid that just by seeing the sparks, Stark's wolf cubs will. He will be so scared that he wets his pants, and then goes back to his castle to ask for milk from his wet nurse. His eyes were fixed on Cole, and his intention to criticize Hawaii was obvious. Cole ignored it. Ever since the old man found out that he couldn't beat him, he just kept talking to his heart's content. Sir Kevin, remaining polite in the face of your enemies is also a sign of magnanimity. His face turned red with anger. Compared with his brother Tywin, he was indeed a few steps behind. At least in terms of facial expression management, this Lannister was not as calm as the Duke. I don't know what you told Tywin, but I will not hand over a Lannister knight to a little brat easily. He threatened fiercely. You must have confidence in the Duke, sir. Tywin didn't tell him anything, but asked him to cooperate with this kid. This made Kevin, who had always been a confidant of Tywin's siblings, feel aggrieved. At this time, he should be leading the army to fight against the Northern Army. However, he felt somewhat comforted by the thought that he was coming to cooperate with his nephew in attacking Riverrun. Maybe he saw that his nephew was not stable enough, so he let him come here to take charge of the overall situation. Suddenly, the sparks at the northern end of the Red Fork River became violent. In the eyes of Cole and Sir Kevin, they were like exploding stars, and they became more and more intense. Kevin was wondering, could it be that their army was attacking the city at night? However, it was his own camp that was burned down. Could it be that he was attacked? How is that possible? It seems we have to speed up, Lord Kevin. Cole said abruptly. Kevin refused to believe it anymore, and the fact was still presented before him, that is, someone was attacking the Lannister camp. Cole turned the horse's head to tell something behind him, and then rode down the hill. Kevin followed closely, and a torrent of red steel surged in the wilderness outside the city. Cole's cavalry looked weak, but their momentum was not weak at all. After all, they were fierce people of fire. Kevin stared straight at the back in front of him, constantly asking in his mind, how did he know, where did the team that attacked the siege army come from, and who was commanding it? He really wanted to stop this damn brat and interrogate him, but the situation now waited for no one. When they were only 2 or 3 miles away from Riverrun, the boy stopped his horses suddenly and reined in all the cavalry under his command. He turned around and said in an extremely powerful tone, Lord Kevin, we are at this moment. This is what Lord Tywin is worried about, and I will be in charge of the entire battlefield at this moment. Kevin had nothing to say and lowered his head silently. Yes. Cole showed a smile. This place was just upstream of the Tengshi River. The Lannister military camp was stationed along the bank. At the north end of the camp was a mountain forest. At this time, the camp was already in chaos. Jaime divided the Lannister army of tens of thousands into 3 groups, and the northern end was the camp that was now penetrated by the Northern Knights. Riverrun City is also built on a dangerous spot, which is the intersection of 2 rivers. The south side of the city wall is divided into 3 pieces of land by the river like a cake. It was just a place for James to set up 3 camps. The middle camp and the north camp are separated by a Tengshi River. The river is now covered with people and boats. Some people are jumping into the river from the north bank to escape, while others are coming from the south bank to support them. Cole couldn't help shaking his head. The commander of the middle camp was also a fool. After the fall of the north, he should have gathered the remaining soldiers and joined the south camp as soon as possible, instead of supporting the north camp like a headless fly. After all, there was a river between them. It was not good for cavalry and infantry to fight on water. Even if they took the trouble to get ashore, what awaited them was only a difficult landing battle. The water was surging, and the north camp was also in chaos with fire. The cavalry of the north was killing. Cole opened the Eye of Time and looked away. There were 3 or 4 times as many cavalry in the north. It would be useless if they went in head first. Sir Kevin, take a small team to take over the south camp. Don't let them collapse. Cole quickly ordered him. He was about to say something, but he shut up again after thinking about it. He handed the flag to Cole, and then ordered a few men to ride away. Duokai, lead your brothers to cut trees. He whispered a few words in the ear of Duokai of the Flame Guard. Then he quickly drew his sword and shouted to the back, Flamemen and Lannister warriors, follow me and charge. More than 1,500 knights followed Cole down the river, shouting and killing. In the camp full of fire and smoke, someone shouted, reinforcements are coming. Reinforcements are coming. The banner with the roaring lion was shining brightly under the fire, and the fire behind the knights was like a red sun rising into the night sky. Chapter 41. Catelyn stood restlessly in the stronghold, surrounded by 30 majestic Northland knights. In fact, it is not accurate to say that they are knights. Most of the people in the north are descendants of the ancestors and do not believe in the 7 gods. Naturally, they will not anoint holy oil in the church, recite the oath, and become a knight. But these soldiers wearing helmets and carrying armor are not inferior to any knights. Her son led 6,000 men to attack a Lannister army 3 times their size. Robb was just a child under the age of 16. As a mother, how could she not be worried? She could only sit and silently pray to the gods, warriors, Heavenly Father, and the Holy Mother. When the sound of horse hooves came from the mountains and forests, she couldn't help but look up at the grey-white flags and the running dire wolves. Thank the gods, he saw the boy in grey armor at the front of the team. He grew a beard, looking more like a man, and his fiery red hair flashed like flames in the dark night. Caitlin noticed that they tied a person with hemp rope, with golden hair, and armor with a roaring lion printed on it. She naturally recognized this person. He was the damned regicide. Jaime Lannister was carried and thrown off his horse, his face still a little unruly. People around him began to clamor to kill the regicide. Caitlin also wished she could kill this blonde demon now, but her husband and daughter were still in their hands. Suddenly there was a commotion at the bottom of the mountain, and the scouts on guard suddenly came to report, "Lord Stark, a cavalry force came down from the river." For a moment, the eyes of everyone who had been in a cheerful atmosphere became serious. "Can you see how many people there are?" The scout shook his head. The fire was soaring into the sky, and there were nearly 2,000 in the vanguard alone. Robb Stark turned around and was about to mount his horse. He raised his shawl, but his arm was suddenly pulled by someone. He turned around and met his mother's eyes. "Robb," Catelyn called to her son softly. He twitched his hand hard, then jumped onto his horse. He ordered the guards guarding his mother, "Take my mother back to Luanhi City and ask Count Frey to open the doorway." After saying that, he led a group of cavalry to rush down to the river valley to kill. Cole's cavalry rushed in like sharp swords, and the people leading the northern cavalry reacted quickly. They quickly gathered several cavalry groups to face the enemy head-on. The swords and weapons met, and Cole swung his sword a few times and killed several oncoming cavalry. They roared like a gust of wind, and in a few breaths, they rushed hundreds of meters. Cole didn't know how many people died in his hands, but they just chopped down everyone they saw. Often a handover can tell the difference between victory and defeat. He opened the Eye of Time to avoid several fatal attacks, and he was also very powerful when he dismounted the good horse. At least one charge passed by, and both he and the horse were safe. When he looked back, there was chaos around him, with shouts of death, curses, and screams. The shock made him dizzy. "Is this a battlefield?" A man approached with a spear and was kicked over by the horse. Cole took the reins and kicked the horse over him. Continuing to slash at the nearest enemy with his sword, he passed by the head of a northerner on a cold winter night, and a head rose into the sky. Cole continued to rush towards the next person as fast as the wind. The winter night is like a ruthless blade of death, constantly harvesting the lives of the enemy. The northerners were retreating, and a group of cavalry gathered at Cole's side again. They chased after the enemy and worked together to assassinate the lone man. At this time, a well-equipped cavalry emerged from the forest. The leader was covered in armor, followed by a huge grey-black creature. The flag looked like a grey running wolf on a white background. They broke out from the left wing and caught Cole and others off guard. The two groups of cavalry mingled together and became chaotic in an instant. Korsma made a patrol, and there were cavalry surrounding him, so the enemy could not get close for the time being. He discovered the location of the enemy general. Needless to say, the man who led the dire wolf to kill the enemy must be Robb Stark. Because the dire wolves were always guarding Robb, the horses didn't dare to get close, so a vacuum formed around him. Not only were the horses afraid of this monster, but people were also afraid of it. As soon as Cole got closer, the horse beneath him stopped obeying. Robb also spotted him. Cole's armor was not conspicuous, but just now Robb had seen clearly that all the Lannister knights were surrounding Cole's wings. In an instant, both of them seemed to have reached a tacit decision to duel. Robb lightly clipped his spurs and came with a sword. His momentum was like a wolf attacking the moon. At this time, the warhorse under Cole's crotch finally stopped its restlessness, and Cole also rushed away with the force of a rainbow. The cold light exchanged, causing violent tremors. The two of them were going back and forth on the war horses, showing their murderous intent. Under the firelight, Robb finally saw clearly the face under the half-helmet. He felt that this person was very familiar, but he couldn't remember who it was for the moment. Just listen to Cole say, "Long time no see, Lord Stark." Yes, how could Lord Robb, who had so many things to do, remember an insignificant cook? Cole's two swords flew in the air, and he attacked with both hands. After a while, Robb fell below. He chopped off the horse's head with Winter's Night, and Robb fell down. Cole rode up to Yingyu on his horse, with blood dripping from the giant sword in his hand. Every sound of a horse's hoof sounds like the rattle of death. Suddenly a grey shadow overshadowed the moonlight and flew in the sky. Cole's eyes narrowed. "He has been waiting for you for a long time." He loosened the reins and removed his feet from the stirrups. Cole leaned back and turned off the horse, letting the dire wolf named Grey Wind jump into the air. Its hair stood up, and its blood-red eyes flashed fiercely in the moonlight. Cole could see the sharp fangs when he opened his mouth. At this time, Rob also stood up with his sword, and a wolf and a man surrounded Cole from front and back. He spat on the ground, then turned sideways, with the sword on each side, pointing directly at the two enemies. It's just right to kill both wolf cubs. He swung his sword and slashed quickly to Rob's side. The young wolf lord was not to be outdone, holding a sword to meet him, and Cole combined his two swords to slash, forcing him to step back 2 steps. At this time, the wolf behind him also killed him, and Cole quickly jumped away and put the two enemies in front of him. Rob patted the dire wolf's body, and the wolf jumped into the woods. Cole knew that he had to put the dire wolf in the dark. I hope to know who my opponent is. He coughed twice, then asked Cole. Cole, I was fortunate to be a cook in Winterfell for a few days. Cole approached with a sword. As he spoke, Rob seemed to recall something. I didn't expect it was you. Thank you for taking care of me, sir. Now I fight for Lannister. The sword light slashed down like a crescent moon, and the speed was amazing, but Rob could still handle it. The dire wolves rushed out of the woods from time to time, but they didn't pounce on him. This is extremely flexible. Cole was also frightened. Although they only fought for a few moments, he gradually felt exhausted. Chapter 42. One wolf and one person, one light and one dark, they worked together perfectly. The cavalry passed by in an assassination attempt, but Cole turned to avoid it. On the battlefield, you should not only pay attention to the enemy in front of you, but also pay attention to the murderous intentions everywhere around you. Both of them were amazed at their opponent's tenacity. Rob was surprised to find that Cole was able to survive the combined attacks of him and Grey Wind without any damage. Cole attacked people and avoided wolves, and when he found an opportunity, he slashed at Rob. Every time he saw an opportunity to seize his flaw, the giant wolf would rush out, leaving Cole to retreat. Seeing the stalemate, Cole was always paying attention to the noise around him, and suddenly his eyes firmly caught the dark shadow in the woods. He dodged, his cape trembling, and Rob saw him coming to attack again, and faced him with swords in both hands. Cole's left hand slashed across the winter night. After several fights, Rob already knew that his opponent only had the temperament to attack but not defend. He had to block all his attacks in order to seize the opportunity to launch a defensive counterattack. Rob raised his sword to block, and Cole swung his sword downward again, using both hands to exert force. Rob ducked to one side and ducked to avoid the horizontal blow. He held the sword in both hands to block it. The blade slid up the Cole steel sword body and hit his right arm. At this time, the winter night quickly changed its trajectory and split straight up and down. Rob was shocked and turned his sword back to fight the enemy. Unexpectedly, he was attacked from both sides and had no time to resist from all sides. In an instant, he thought about it in his mind. He held the sword with one hand to resist the sword coming from below, and used the wrist guard with the other hand to meet the sword from above. There was a clang, the iron and the sword collided, and he felt the sound of muscle being torn between his arms. It felt like blood was leaching out from the joint between the guard plate and the sword blade. No, the guard didn't hold his sword back. Cole pushed hard with both swords, and Rob's arm wound was pulled open, and even the protective plate was cut open, allowing him to clearly see his wound. Rob was forced back by the huge force and fell to the ground. At this time, the giant wolf jumped out. Cole held both swords and waved them without fear. It opened its big mouth and flew towards Cole. It jumped up and rolled down like a giant beast. Cole's swords were pressed against its paws. Grey Wind stood up like a giant bear. One man and one wolf began to compete for strength. The huge beast was pressing on him, but Cole did not waver, just like a tough rock. Suddenly he let go of his swords and pulled away, and Grey Fang fell directly to the ground. At this time, there was only a swish sound, and Cole pulled out a dagger from the back belt. Rob was staggering up, covering his arm. When he saw the dagger, he shouted, "Grey Wind, be careful!" The sound reached the wolf's ears, and it quickly shook its head, but it was still a step too late. There was a scream, a dagger was inserted into the wolf's eye, and blood rushed out instantly. The waving of its head saved its own life, otherwise the dagger would have been plunged into its neck. The pain did not make the dire wolf less ferocious. It opened its teeth and bit up, but Cole caught him instantly and jumped back to avoid it. "Grey Wind, come back," Rob shouted to him. At this time, its face was already covered with blood. Rob looked at the dagger in its eye, gritted his teeth and pulled it out. Cole picked up the sword, met Rob's angry gaze, held his helmet that was tilted to one side, and quickly rushed up with the sword. Rob's hand was so painful that he couldn't hold the sword at all. Grey Wind stood in front of him, and his face dripping with blood looked very scary. Now both the man and the wolf are disabled and no longer a match for Cole. Suddenly a knight from the north came to attack, and it seemed that someone still sensed that the master was in danger. Cole dodged the swung mace, raised his sword and slashed. The knight dismounted with a pop, and died before he could scream. Rob managed to hold the sword with his good hand, pushing Grey Wind away as he stepped back. However, the stubborn dire wolf was determined to protect his master and was not moved at all. The situation had turned towards Cole, and several more knights came over, but none of them could stop Cole. Like a bloody god of murder, he kept getting closer to the young wolf lord. Rob knew that the blood belonged to his own people. He had already cut down 2 northern knights. The dire wolf bared its teeth and roared in a low voice. "Grey Wind, go away." Rob was still slapping the stubborn wolf cub. "Maybe dying in a killing field is a good destination for you." Cole looked at the young wolf master whose arms were shaking. The dire wolf pounced again, but because it injured one eye, it completely missed him. Cole turned around and faced the unsteady Rob Stark. Rob's face showed a look of determination, and his sword slowly pointed towards the enemy. Thinking of those people crying for mercy on the battlefield, at least the young wolf lord has the courage to face life and death. You know, he is only 15 years old. Just when Rob was about to fight to the death, a sudden turning point came. A sharp arrow shot through the air and hit Cole in the back with a whoosh. He groaned in pain. This flow of arrows was indeed beyond his expectation. In the distance, a man holding a bow was pointing an arrow in this direction. He was riding on a horse and fully equipped with armor. Rob could even feel the smile on his face through the armor. Yes, it was the smiling Theon. His brother, adopted son of Winterfell, Theon Greyjoy. Cole reached back, and the arrow had already pierced his back deeply. He swung his sword and cut the arrow in half, shaking the wound. The pain instantly made his right arm numb. At this time, the dire wolf actually pounced on him again, and he was thrown to the ground before he was able to prevent it. The bloody mouth bit directly towards Cole's neck. He reached out and grabbed the dire wolf's upper and lower jaws, but the pull of his right arm made the wound more torn. Now he couldn't care less. Death was only a few centimeters away from him. He was immortal after all. Although his extraordinary abilities made him invincible in battle, an arrow almost killed him. Just as Cole was struggling to pull the giant wolf's mouth, a slow footstep approached. Cole glanced over and saw Rob Stark's tall figure slowly approaching. He walked with a sword and his arm was soaked in blood. Cole sighed silently in his heart. He knew what he was about to face. At this time, shouts of killing suddenly came overwhelming, and red flags of roaring lions came from all directions. Rob was startled. Theon rushed to his side with a team of cavalry. He glanced at the person lying on the ground and couldn't recognize him for a while. "Rob, get on the horse quickly, Lannister's reinforcements are coming." Rob pursed his lips and was helped to get on the horse by several knights. He glanced at Cole, then called back the dire wolf, led the cavalry into the mountains and forests, and went to an unknown place. Cole lay on the ground and coughed a few times, leaving blood on his mouth. He propped himself up and wanted to see where the reinforcements came from. From a distance, it was the old man Kevin who led people rushing from all directions. Those northern cavalry who did not have time to retreat were strangled one by one, and Kevin also found Cole sitting on the ground. He walked up with a smug look on his face. "Stinky boy, if you beg me, I can help you." Cole spat out a mouthful of blood foam. "I can get up by myself." Chapter 43. Use a hot knife to cut the flesh and blood, wipe the blood with burlap cloth, roughly pull out the arrow cone, and then pour it with strong wine. This is the most advanced treatment method in the military camp. The sticky herbs were wrapped in satin on his back, and Cole's forehead was already covered with sweat. Kevin was worthy of being a veteran on the battlefield. He gathered all the troops and sent out cavalry to sweep away the enemy troops. He was counting his own casualties. In this battle, the Lannister forces suffered heavy losses. Only about 7,000 of their 15,000 troops remained. Of course, the lost ones were not dead, but most of them ran away. Cole and the others used 2,000 cavalry to attack the 6,000 cavalry in the north. The losses were not small, and they were reduced by half. Cole's own people suffered the most serious losses. It is estimated that there are only about 400 flame people left around him. War is so cruel. In fact, ever since people started to support Robb Stark, Cole knew that the situation on his side was no longer optimistic. If Sir Kevin hadn't sent an army to help, their fake reinforcements would have been exposed. Although Stark retreated, bad news also followed. For example, Sir Jaime Lannister was still captured by the enemy. Kevin had sent a messenger to tell his brother Tywin, and he could imagine Tywin's anger when he knew the news. When the messenger arrived at Tywin's military camp, it looked like a post-war situation. Looking at the flying roaring lion flag, it goes without saying that the Lannister won. Victory on both fronts should have been cause for joy, but as the news of Jaime Lannister's arrest was delivered to Tywin, all the joy suddenly condensed to the bottom. Some people suggested that we should continue to pursue the victory and invasions. Some people suggested joining forces to attack Riverrun, and some even suggested retreating to negotiate peace. Only Lord Tywin remained silent. His face was terrifyingly gloomy. After all, everyone knew that Jaime was his favored heir. How could he be in a good mood now that the heir was in the hands of the enemy? He did not give a conclusion, but asked everyone to retreat first, leaving only Tyrion. Tyrion's wildling army did give Tywin an unexpected surprise. The enemy only had a small group of cavalry and could not break through the barbarian army. Instead, they were killed by the wildlings and fled in all directions. Your wildling army and that kid really surprised me. Tywin poured him a glass of wine. You must be disappointed that the dwarf's son did not die in the battle, right? He took a sip of wine. Tywin handed over a letter. This is a letter from your sister. Tyrion opened it and looked shocked. What? They actually let Eddard Stark escape. The further he looked down, the weirder Tyrion's expression became. Removing Sir Barristan, the honorary captain of the King's Guard, and allowing Janos Slynt to join the royal council, what stupid thing did Cersei do? Seven hells, what are she and her idiot son doing? Tyrion couldn't help but curse. They fought bloody battles at the front, but as a result, King's Landing was filled with smoke and smoke. Now even Eddard Stark, the biggest bargaining chip, has escaped. Tywin obviously recognized his words. I'm going to send you to King's Landing. To King's Landing? What should I do in King's Landing? Take care of your nephew for me. At the end of the letter, Cersei asked them to lead the army to support King's Landing in the name of the king. Stannis Baratheon, Duke of Dragonstone in the south, has expressed his opposition, while Renly Baratheon of Storm's End directly proclaimed himself king, even gaining the support of the Tyrell family. I have always been unpopular with my sister Cersei. It's not like you don't know. I'm afraid she won't listen to my words at all. Then take your barbarians with you and manage them in the city. At the same time, you can also manage the important ministers who are jumping up and down on my behalf. I think Xiao Qiao can do so many stupid things, and they must have a share. How unexpected is SE if Xi can't control that little brat, just do it. Tyrion stopped. I'm not even a knight. When you arrive in King's Landing, you will be the Prime Minister until I come to the capital. Tyrion's mouth opened in astonishment, and he didn't know what to say for a moment. In the end, he just asked, why send me instead of uncle, or? Tywin's golden eyes looked at him without a trace of emotion and said, because you are my son. All the words were swallowed by Tyrion at once. Can I take Cole with me? Kevin thinks very highly of that kid, and he will help continue the attack on Riverrun. Tyrion flashed with disappointment, but then he thought about it. It wasn't a bad thing that Cole fell in the eyes of his father and uncle. At least after the war, he will definitely gain a lot of money and be rewarded with titles and lands. Originally, he wanted Cole to replace the Hound who had been asked to join the King's Guard in the letter, or to command the city guard. The arrow wound made Cole's movements inconvenient. No matter how good his physique was, he did not have the ability to heal quickly. The Lannister army is now garrisoned on the south bank of the Red Fork, backed by the River Road. Riverrun saw that the Lannisters only had a wall around them, and they often sent out cavalry to harass their camp. Sir Kevin, an old boy, doesn't embarrass Cole now. Instead, he gives him the command of the cavalry and lets Cole lead the troops to pursue the guerrillas in Riverrun. The noble knights who were sent to Cole didn't like him very much, and a wild knight also wanted to stand on their head. Cole didn't bother them, he just wanted 400 sets of full-body armor to equip all his flame people, and then sent them out to patrol. They camped under Riverrun for a few days. On this day, Sir Kevin sent someone to call him. As soon as he entered the tent, he saw him sitting in the main seat, with rows of westerly nobles and knights on both sides. Seeing Cole coming in, Kevin directly asked him to sit on his side. At this moment, Cole felt that this old guy was not so annoying. But all the westerly nobles were muttering in their hearts, "Who is this person? Why is he sitting on the side of the commander?" When Cole took his seat, Kevin took out a letter with a roaring lion's emblem wax seal on it. He spread the letter and read, "Westerly generals, listen to my orders. The war is urgent. I, Tywin Lannister, the Guardian of the West, the Duke of Casterly Rock, and the Shield of Lannister Harbor, order you to continue to attack Riverrun with Sir Kevin Lannister as the commander." After hearing the military order, the nobles looked at each other in surprise. Did they have to continue to besiege Riverrun? Is that all they have? Then the meeting became chaotic, with countless opinions. Cole said nothing. After the meeting, Cole stepped out of the tent. Suddenly, he stumbled a few steps and felt a little dizzy. He shook his head and didn't care. Suddenly, someone called him from behind, "Sir Cole, the commander asks you to stay for a while." Cole paused for a moment and stood outside the barracks waiting. Chapter 44. When the men were gone, Sir Kevin summoned him to his tent. "Please take a seat." Kevin reached out to the seat on one side. "Tywin greatly praised you. He asked me to lead the entire army, so I want to ask for your advice." Kevin looked at this young man with short white hair. He didn't know what happened, but he had a patch of white hair at a young age. Cole didn't pay much attention to his hair. After all, it didn't grow much and he had been wearing a helmet recently. "I think Lord Tywin's intention is not to let us capture Riverrun, but to tie up the Tully family's army so that they and Stark's army cannot gather to cause chaos in our rear and ensure the normal operation of our supply lines." He expressed his guess. Kevin nodded in approval. The more he looked at the child, the more he felt like the young Tywin. Of course, it wasn't the appearance, but the demeanor. "Then what do you mean, you want us to besiege but not attack? We can't capture it. Almost half of our siege equipment has been destroyed, and our number has been reduced by half. We can no longer divide our forces to encircle them. Now we can't even trap Tully's army. Maybe one day they will come through other gates." Suddenly came out. Kevin was lost in thought. His personality was nothing like his brother Tywin. It took him a long time to figure out what his brother meant. And now Cole has made it clear in one word. Tywin must continue to put pressure on the north. They have won 2 battles and their morale is now strong. In order to gain more initiative in the subsequent negotiations, he must not retreat. Now all they have is Sansa Stark. "Can't we take Riverrun?" Kevin suddenly sighed. He had been his brother Tywin's deputy all his life, and even if he led the battle, he would leave it to his son Jaime. "Didn't I remember that Edmure Tully of Riverrun is in our hands? What if we let him persuade the defenders of Riverrun to surrender?" Cole thought of Jaime's approach to taking Riverrun. Those people took advantage of the chaos to rescue him. Now the person in charge in Riverrun is Edmure Tully. Both of them fell silent. It seemed that they had won the battle, but in the end they did nothing. Instead, a large number of important personnel were captured. Although they also have prisoners on their hands, they are definitely not equal to those in the north. Only if one of the 2 Lannister armies makes progress can the stalemate be broken. It is definitely not easy for Tywin Lannister to lead the army north. Cole himself is fully aware of the dangers of the neck, let alone the Pass Kalen Bay. Tywin is not smart enough to plunge into it. He should try his best to lure the enemy out for a decisive battle. The army in the north has not completely collapsed, and the 2 armies are bound to fight a protracted war. As for Riverrun, it goes without saying that there is no need to talk about the siege. There are at least close to 1,000 people in the city. Although Cole and the others are several times more powerful than the enemy, it is impossible to attack such a dangerous city by force and the uncertainty is too great. It would be okay if these were united soldiers who had fought hundreds of battles, but the vast majority of them were just farmers and horsemen recruited temporarily. It would be okay for them to fight against the wind. But if the war is in a stalemate or they fall into a passive position, don't expect them to resist desperately. Of course, this kind of problem is also shared by both sides, and the defender will not feel comfortable either. Cole stared at the map in particular trance, and suddenly thought of something. The guard outside the main tent only knew that the surnamed Cole left the main tent very late that day, and he coughed a few times after he went out. Cole's tent stood in the center of the Flame People's camp. When Cole brought them the full set of armor and horse armor, the flame people completely obeyed him. They confirmed that this man could bring them benefits. Then Cole can firmly sit in the position of King of Fire. But the barbarian's character was eventually developed into a habit, and the camp was in chaos. Fortunately, Cole's tent was relatively quiet. The surrounding flame people saluted him, and he nodded in response. Now he just wants to get some sleep. He lay tiredly on the mat, feeling like he could barely lift his eyelids, and fell into a deep sleep as soon as he fell down. Where is this? He looked up and saw the many pavilions standing there. He looked around carefully and realized that this was the world in his previous life, but hadn't he already traveled through it? As he walked around, little memories began to flow into his mind. It was only a year ago, and he could barely remember how he got home. Is that world a dream of its own? Cole suddenly heard a girl crying. He followed the sound and saw a huge mirror standing in front of him. Like an image projected onto a virtual screen, he could vaguely see a girl crying in despair. Countless pairs of dark hands were pulling around her. Cole suddenly felt sad. For some reason, he was also sad for this girl. A thread of blood actually poured out from the girl's body. Cole could clearly see the blood droplets floating in the thread. The blood thread was tied directly to his body. Suddenly, a black shadow emerged from the mirror and turned into the overwhelming black wings. Drogo opened his eyes in confusion, and he saw his Moondani, with her big belly. She was the steed riding the world and the cow among the cows predicted by the prophet Doshkaran. His face was so pale that there was no blood at all, and his lips were also a dark purple. He dreamed that the horse came from the sky, and Drogo got on the horse's back. It took him across the Dothraki Sea, the city-state of the Milkman, and the Black Sea. He saw the throne. And a pair of eyes burning with fire. He is Khal Drogo, the most powerful Dothraki. He will ride a wooden horse to cross the black salt water and fetch the iron chair for his son, the horse riding the world, Rhaegal. He will take his own Colossus to conquer the world across the sea. Suddenly, his almond eyes widened, blood rushed to his eyes and face, and the bells in his hair rang. Drogo touched the wound on his chest that had been festering. It scarred overnight, and his body seemed to become lighter. Walking out of the straw tent, his eyes were bright. The slaves had gotten up early and were busy. His brothers and blood guards also came to his side. Seeing that Drogo was in good condition, they all showed joy. Recently, there were rumors among the bandits that Khal Drogo was about to die, so they began to move. Khal is the Horse King, and the bandits are equivalent to the vassal of the Horse King. Because the new Horse King will be born from among them, but this will be a bloody competition. When Ka rode his steed majestically through the various castes, small tribes under the big tribe Karasa, all the rumors were broken, and he would continue to travel west with Karas. When the fierce horse galloped across the continent of Essos, everyone was trembling and crying. Their children would become slaves and their women would become playthings under the crotch of wild horses. Chapter 45. Korra's back was soaked with sweat, and beads of sweat rolled down his forehead. He sat up in shock, and felt a wet area behind him. All kinds of bizarre things flashed in his dreams overnight. His right back hurt like a knife cutting, and the pain rose and fell. He reached out and touched the cloth strip, which was already soaked with sweat. Untying the cloth strip, it was blood red, and there was thick yellow pus between the bloodstains. In an instant, Cole's face turned terribly pale, and fear continued to spread in his heart, and the wound became inflamed. Cole wanted to find a monk, and at this time Kevin sent someone to call him. After thinking about it, he followed the guards to see Kevin first. This Lannister didn't look very mentally well today. He just learned that his son was also captured by the North. Seeing Cole's pale face, Kevin still asked with concern, "You look a little bad, Sir Cole." Cole could only squeeze out a pale smile, his voice was a little hoarse, "I didn't sleep well." Kevin stood up and poured him a glass of wine, then spread out the map. "How many people do you think each gate needs?" Cole looked at the defense of Riverrun on the map, which was very simple and not even accurate enough. This was just what the scouts observed with the naked eye from the high ground. They will definitely gather together. Our division of troops is just a strategy to lure the enemy. The elite must be put together. I dare not bet which gate they will come out from, but it must be our weak point. Cole thought about it and suddenly said, "Maybe we can pretend to have some flaws, and it's better to sacrifice some people." Kevin frowned slightly, but instantly thought of his brother Tywin, so he nodded gently. The two continued to discuss the details. It was already noon when it was over, and Kevin wanted to keep him for dinner, but Cole was still thinking about looking for the monks. After the monk cleaned his wound, he looked at his back and sighed, the wound has not healed. Only flame therapy can be used. The monk thought about it and said so. Flame therapy, will flame work for him? Cole shook his head, please use strong liquor to clean my wound again, brother Oli. I have to clean up the concentrated water first. The monk said to him. Of course, please use hot water to clean it. The monk nodded. Cole had sent a servant to boil water. This kid was sent to him by Kevin. When the wound was cleaned, Cole's face was already pale and looked like a living person. The monk said that the wound was festering, so he used a knife to clean some rotten meat. After Cole cleaned the wound, the servant Munda brought in some boiled pig blood. Cole told him to do it. He slept in the tent for a whole afternoon. When he opened his eyes in the evening, his condition recovered a lot. He only felt that his back was not so painful. He walked out of the tent and asked the servant Munda to call a few captains of the Flame Guard. Duokai was wearing a set of northern armor at this time, which was what Cole asked him to ask for. Duokai was known as the first warrior of the Painted Dog tribe. He had good fighting power and a kind personality. He did whatever Cole said. He did not fight or grab during plundering, and was very popular in the Painted Dog tribe. Has anyone observed the moon? Cole asked a question that made no sense. Several captains of the Flame Guard shook their heads. Who would observe the moon for no reason? At this time, one of them suddenly thought of something. King, there is a boy in our tribe who should know something about the moon. He always said that there is countless gold and beautiful women on the moon. Cole asked him to call him. Beside a bonfire, Cole asked Munda to roast half a piglet, and at the same time took some wine to share with several captains of the guard. The next battle will be the most crucial one for us to fight against the northern enemy. Have you collected the armor and flags? Duokai. Don't worry, King. Now the brothers in the tribe are all wearing the clothes of those northerners. At this time, the man who talked about the moon was finally brought in. He was very thin and wore a suit of armor with the emblem of the north. He might be a nobleman. The armor looked a little big. Korra directly asked him which day the moonlight was better. This kid talked about the moon endlessly. Korra was not interested in listening to his remarks and legends about the moon, but he kept him by his side. In the next few days, the injury got better a lot. The wound had been sutured. According to the monk who treated him, the wound was just a little black. Cole touched it and it was still a little painful, but it didn't affect his activities much. Cole had to do many things himself, because the things he was responsible for were of great importance. Kevin also assigned the most elite warriors around him to him. The knight leading the army was ordered to die by Kevin and had to listen to Cole's command. Kevin was annoyed by the nobles' dissatisfaction with Cole these days. In fact, he himself looked down on Cole's background. A wild knight who called himself the king of barbarians was just a joke, but Kevin was not stupid enough to ignore a person's ability. This kid was a talent. At least through the aristocratic education of the Lannister family, he could distinguish between those who were fools and those who had real talents. And what they were going to do was Cole's idea. He was constantly calculating in his mind. To be honest, he admired this kid's brain. He dared to take risks and analyzed it thoroughly. He felt that this matter was definitely more than 70% sure, and even if it didn't work, it would not affect them much. He vaguely remembered that night, the young man smiled when he heard that the person in charge in the city was Ed Muir Tully. Then he vowed, if Ed Muir Tully is in charge in the city, then the gods are on our side. He still remembered that smile very clearly. I hope your guess is correct. The morning sun of the next day pierced the earth like a golden spear. The soldiers of Riverrun who had been guarding the castle all night were preparing to change shifts. Suddenly, the garrison under the castle began to get restless, and someone quickly went to the inner city to report. Ed Muir Tully quickly led a group of river nobles to climb up the tower, and sure enough, the crowd below was moving slowly. Someone asked, what are they doing? In one morning, the Lannister army was divided into 3 groups. The people of Riverrun finally realized that they were going to divide the troops to besiege the city. Someone couldn't help laughing, look at these idiots from the Lannister family, they dare to divide the troops. They dare to divide the troops with such a small number of people, which is really stupid. I think we should take the opportunity to send troops and teach them a lesson. Someone suggested. Ed Muir shook his head. Since he was captured by Lannister, he was scared to death, and even refused to send the cavalry to attack. The knights in the city had already had opinions about him, thinking that he was too cowardly and unworthy of leading the army. But now the Duke of Riverrun, Hoster Tully, was unconscious again. He was too old to walk up to the wall to lead the army. Until the three enemy armies had set up camp, they still just stared at the castle. Cole was feeding the ravens. He did this a lot when he was at the wall. He caught one, then took out an arrow, stabbed the raven with the tip of the arrow, and then tied a letter with a wax seal of the wolf run, and let it fly. These days, he has been observing the moonlight with the man who talked about the moon. This man's observation of the moon is indeed quite good. After all, it is not the earth, and Cole dare not apply the earth's method. However, after a few days of observation, he also grasped some rules. He came to an accurate conclusion, the day after tomorrow's waning moon. Chapter 46. Do you know what they called me? Ed Muir complained angrily to the butler beside him, scared Ed Muir. What do they know? We only have 1,300 people. If we send everyone out, who will defend the city? Master Ed Muir, the maester came over at this time, holding 2 injured ravens in his hands. These are 2 ravens flying from the north. Hearing that it was the north, Ed Muir was overjoyed. He saw with his own eyes that his nephew brought his army and almost defeated the Lannisters. Is it my nephew Rob? He took the letter and found that it was indeed sealed with dire wolf wax, so he opened the letter excitedly, and then couldn't help laughing. Those stupid Lannisters dared to divide their troops. He turned to the butler and ordered, call all the knights in the city to the hall and tell them that Lord Ed Muir summoned them to discuss important matters. When a group of river nobles gathered in the hall, they were terribly silent. After all, the current situation was not optimistic. Ed Muir walked into the high chair of the lord's seat with a happy face, and the lords just thought he was sleeping with the maid of a castle again. Unexpectedly, he took out a letter with a proud face. The emblem of the dire wolf on it was naturally recognized by everyone. He just heard him say loudly, the brave raven brought us good news. Someone secretly sent in his heart, black wings bring black news. 2 days later, my nephew Robb Stark will lead the Northern Cavalry to attack Lannister's camp again. I know some people secretly call me Cowardly Ed Muir, but the day after tomorrow I will personally lead the warriors of Riverrun to go out to meet the enemy, and I will personally cut off Jaime Lannister's head. He said loudly and angrily. Will the letter be written by the cunning Lannister? Someone questioned. I recognize my nephew's handwriting, Earl Janosch. He said to the man very confidently. In fact, he had not even seen his nephew a few times, but he still recognized the arrow wound on the raven. And whether it was a conspiracy would naturally be revealed on that day. They were high above and could see the situation under the city clearly. In the next 2 days, Ed Muir was actively preparing for the battle. He ordered his soldiers to train and practiced every day. He must show his bravery in this battle so that they would never call him Cowardly Ed Muir again. And his nephew Robb was leading his army across Luanhi City at this moment. They were defeated and deceived. There was no Lannister reinforcement at all, just a cavalry that came from nowhere. When Robb reacted and prepared to counterattack, Lannister had gathered all the people and erected spikes, giving them no chance to attack. He could only fight back in anger. The northern army led by Roose Bolton was also defeated by Tywin Lannister. It was heard that Tywin had led his army north and was about to approach Luanhi City. Old Earl Frey wrote a letter urging him to lead the army to stop Tywin's army. When entering Luanhi City, Earl Frey's face was indeed not very good. He assured Old Frey that he would lead his army to defend the gorge of Luanhi City and prevent Tywin's army from advancing northward. This made the old Earl look a little better. Then the old guy urged Robb to marry his daughter. Robb could only postpone it with the excuse of their original contract. After all, the original promise was to marry his daughter after the war. The main force of the northern army is still there. Now the situation is not so one-sided to Lannister. They have Jens and Kaelin Bay behind them, so they don't have to worry about having no way out. And important figures such as Jaime Lannister, William Lannister, and Tin Frey are still in their hands. 2 days later, Kevin was staring at the sky nervously as it gradually darkened. At this time, there was a drizzle in the sky and mist rising from the water. Today's weather was extremely gloomy and depressing. The guards stood outside the tent listlessly. He set up his flag on the north camp, and now he was using the flag of a noble under him. Kevin led the army in the south camp. Cole swore to him that there would be no moonlight tonight. He was still skeptical at first, but now he believed at 8 points when he saw the river shrouded in fog. At the same time, he was also wondering where Tyrion found this monster. How could he even predict the weather? Cole couldn't help coughing when the night wind blew. He led 1,000 cavalrymen, dressed like Starks and hiding in the mountains and forests, and the barracks of Lannister were in the valley. Those people didn't know there was such a play, and Cole didn't intend to let them know. As bait, they didn't need to know too much. At this moment, Cole felt that he was a heart of stone, but in order to make the play more realistic, he had to sacrifice something. Ahem. He couldn't help but cover his lips tightly, and felt his hands sticky. The armor on his body also became very heavy. Ed Muir was standing on the city wall and looking around, but he couldn't see anything below except a piece of fire. He was thinking in his heart, is it really a conspiracy of Lannister? Impossible. How could the Lannisters know that today was a foggy day without a moon, unless they were gods descending to earth? In fact, Cole could not have imagined a foggy day. He could only guess that today was very likely to be a waning moon, which was almost equivalent to no moon. My lord, the lights on the north bank of the Tengshi River seem to be in chaos. Ed Muir's eyebrows fluttered. Here they come, as expected. There were faint shouts and screams from the other side, and then the fire became huge, and they could finally see the dancing dire wolf flag on the wall. Quickly gather people. Ed Muir hurriedly ordered those around him. The Knights of Riverrun gathered at the foot of the wall in an instant. They had been preparing for this moment for a long time. Ed Muir simply said a few words to encourage them, and then asked them to open the iron gate, lift the bolt of the bronze wooden door, and slowly lower the drawbridge. Boom! When the drawbridge hit the bank of the moat heavily, he led a large group of cavalry to charge out and directly into the Lannister camp. Sure enough, those Lannister soldiers fled in panic and were easily killed by them like cutting leeks. Seeing the expressions of those Lannister soldiers, some knights gradually put down their worries. It seems that they are really reinforcements from the north. Cole looked from the hilltop. He did not go down. At this time, his entire right arm was numb and he could not hold the sword at all. He could only stand on the top with a stern face to command, and there were several Lannister knights guarding him. At this time, if you look from the wall, although the lights in the Lannister South camp and the Central camp are still on, there are already few people. Ed Muir was in the mood to kill. After seeing the armor and flags of the Northerners, he completely let go of himself and led his cavalry to chase the remnants of Lannister. A Northern cavalryman who had fallen off his horse happened to pass by him, and he hurriedly asked, "Where is your Lord Stark?" The man was stunned for a moment, and suddenly pointed to a hill. Ed Muir looked and saw that there was indeed a small group of cavalry there, so he led his guards and ran towards the hill happily. Chapter 47. Cole stood on a high hill, watching the cavalry of Riverrun being surrounded. Sir Kevin was coming with soldiers from the South camp and the Central camp. Suddenly, a group of cavalry with silver trout flags came running towards them from below. It looked like there were more than a dozen of them. At this time, there were only 5 cavalrymen on the hill, including Cole, which was only a small half of the number of the people coming. Prepare for battle. Cole ordered his subordinates. Ed Muir ran to the hill excitedly. He originally thought that he would encounter the wolf flags and the cavalry. When he came up, he found that they were a few people of big cats and small cats. The leader was indeed very young, with no beard on his face. There was no need to guess that he must be his nephew Robb Stark. He was about to greet them, but the 5 people held lances and swords and charged towards them fearlessly. "Robb, it's me, I'm your uncle Ed Muir." He quickly stated his identity. Who knew that Robb seemed to be deaf, as if he couldn't hear what he said. It was not until their murderous intent was fully revealed and the blades of their own cavalry were intersecting that Ed Muir realized that this TN was not Robb at all. The young knight was wielding a big sword in one hand, cutting down Ed Muir's guards and approaching him. He quickly pulled the reins and prepared to retreat. At this time, the knight beside him quickly grabbed his horse rope and said in his ear, "Ed Muir, the enemy is only 5 people." Only then did he react. Yes, there were only 5 of them. So the brave Ed Muir raised his sword. After a fight, 4 people fell on their side, and one of the enemies also fell. Of course, this was just a sneak attack. Now with 9 against 4, the Tully family has the upper hand. Ed Muir Tully led his guards to fight with the enemy leader. There was no one around this young boy, and his hand holding the horse rope was still shaking. He wanted to take off this man's head himself. The knight beside him took the lead, but was killed by the enemy's sword. Ed Muir and another knight swung their swords together. He didn't believe that this kid could beat the 2 of them, Until Ed Muir was knocked unconscious by the sword, he couldn't figure out how this kid, who looked not as strong as him, could have so much strength. After Ed Muir fell, other river knights were ready to come to rescue him, and at this time the remaining 2 Lannister knights also approached him. With 3 against 6, the enemy surrounded Cole and his 3 men from both sides. Cole's right arm was completely powerless, and it was extremely difficult to pull the reins, so he couldn't use both hands to hold the sword to defend against the enemy. Weapons were used from all directions, and Cole's armor was attacked in several places. At this time, the advantage of heavy armor came out. A Lannister knight was stabbed off the horse by a spear, and another was stabbed to death on the horse. The enemy was not hurt at all, and the situation suddenly changed. Cole seemed to be trapped in a dead end. At this time, swords and spears attacked from all sides. In an instant, the sky and the earth stopped. The slowly falling drizzle was like water drops dotting the transparent canvas of space. Those who killed the enemy with sharp weapons, those who fled, those who wailed, and those who were angry, all had different expressions. At this moment, all the expressions were like paintings on their faces. Cole had no time to care about anything else. He did his best to observe every sword and knife that came to kill. There were 2 spears and a long sword in front of him, and a mace as far as his eyes could see. The blade of the spear pointed at himself and the warhorse, while the sword and mace were all attacking him. Cole knew that there was another sharp sword behind him, but it was completely out of his sight. Now he had to be prepared for the horse to be stabbed or injured and startled. It was best to avoid the straight trajectory of the spear, but the wide range of the waving mace and long sword almost blocked Cole's life. But he had time, he could carefully look for loopholes. The river knights saw him ducking to one side and dodging all their attacks. The warhorse was stabbed by a spear, and it cried out directly, and ran wildly in one direction. 2 swords were drawn from the horse's back, facing the necks of the 2 knights, and the sound of cutting through the wind whizzed, and the 2 knights fell down. Cole only felt that the scapula connecting his right back to his arm was almost broken, and the heat flowing between his clothes and armor. He didn't know whether it was blood or hot sweat. The horse ran uncontrollably into the woods, and suddenly a branch came across in front of him, and Cole's head, which had just been raised, bowed down again. The only 4 remaining river knights were shocked by this scene for a moment, and then 3 of them rode their horses to chase, and 1 went down to inspect the young master Ed Muir. When the enemy arrived, Cole was much more calm in dealing with the 3 people. As his blood boiled, Cole was like a person with red eyes in a fight, not afraid of pain at all. He used his double swords and opened the Eye of Time. These 3 people were no match for him at all, and one of them was knocked off his horse by him. Another person was stabbed in the eye socket by him. The Winter Knight was like a hot knife entering a frozen oil block. The armor face protection could not stop the stabbing sword at all. The knight screamed and fell down with his face covered. The last person saw that the situation was not right, turned his horse's head and ran away. At this time, the horse that Cole was sitting on was suddenly tripped by vines, and he also fell off the horse. He rolled on the slope for several rounds before he stood up in a dusty face. He didn't know where his body was injured, but at least he could still stand up. There was a hot stream between his forehead, and blood was caused by the collision of his head through the armor when he fell. It happened that the horse of a river knight stopped not far from him. Cole went up to comfort the horse. The horse sniffed him and smelled that it was not its owner, and then started to make trouble. Cole clamped the horse's head with both hands, and the horse could not move at all. He got on the horse and kicked the horse's belly with his leg. It obediently followed the instructions and moved forward. The fleeing knight soon saw Cole chasing behind him. He whipped the horse under him in panic, urging it to run faster. Panic leads to mistakes. He whipped the horse so hard that it also lost its pace. He was soon caught up by Cole. He begged for mercy in a pleading tone. The sword had long been lost, but Cole struck it lightly. Cole's whole body was covered in sticky blood, and he could no longer tell whether it was the enemy's or his own. When Cole returned to the battlefield, the roaring lion of Lannister had risen in River Run. He couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief and showed a bloody smile. It seemed that they had won. At this time, he felt like he had drank a big bowl of white wine. He didn't feel much when he drank it, but the stamina was not small at all. Suddenly he relaxed, and he only felt a big mountain pressing on his shoulders, and the mountains and river valleys in front of him were jumping up and down, left and right. Someone said something in his ear, and it felt like a cry from outside his soul, far and near, long and far away. He could no longer see clearly who the person in front of him was, 1 or 2. Bang! He finally heard the armor hitting the ground, and in front of him was the endless night, far, far, far away. Chapter 48. My lord, his wounds are festering and he has a high fever. The monk kept shaking his head. The white-haired boy was talking nonsense, and no one knew what language it was. Since the night found Cole, he has been unconscious, and the white hair made Kevin imagine. When he first saw him, his hair was just like stubble, and it was impossible to tell whether it was blonde or something else, but now it was silver. Silver hair and purple eyes, is he the bastard of the Targaryen family? Kevin couldn't help thinking in his heart. In the Battle of King's Landing, he followed Tywin and watched the soldiers of the Lannister family kill King's Landing and blood flowed into the river, and watched the mountain bring 2 female corpses and a baby boy to them. That was Princess Elia Martell of Dorne, and the first wife of Prince Rhaegar. Her clothes were already in disarray. Some people said that the mountain raped her before killing her, and the mountain himself did not deny it. He remembered that when he first met Elia, Tyrion had just been born, and she was full of joy and said that she would adopt this deformed child. At that time, she should be the same age as this silver-haired boy, just an innocent girl. When he saw her again, this Martell princess had become a graceful and elegant crown princess. The last time he saw her was a corpse. He remembered that Tywin's face was very bad at that time, the disheveled Princess Elia, and the little Princess Rhaenys Targaryen who was stabbed more than 50 times. She was only 3 years old at that time, not as tall as Kevin's legs. Kevin remembered that when he saw her in the Red Castle, she always held a black cat, which she called Bael Ryan. The most uncomfortable thing for Kevin among the 3 corpses was the baby with a festering head. It was said that the mountain slapped the baby against the wall with one hand. In a pile of rotten meat, Kevin saw the bloody white blonde hair. Kevin himself and his son were both blonde, and he could recognize them at a glance. The monk told him that when the gods summoned back a heroic soul, they would make him pure and flawless, so the child's hair would turn white. Kevin sighed and thought that it was the gods who wanted to do this. Half of the credit for this victory was due to this child, but if the gods really favored him, let him wake up. After visiting Cole, Kevin left with his guards. After conquering Riverrun, he still had a lot to do. In the tent, only Cole's servant Munda was busy at this time. Kevin told him to take good care of Cole and tell him if he woke up. When he opened his eyes, this time it was no longer a pavilion with carved beams and painted rafters, but a vast white world. In the white, he saw a virtual door, standing tall. In front of the door was a balance. Cole himself was standing on one side of the balance. Where is this again? Is it a dream? On the opposite side of him, there stood a group of horses. The huge door frame that seemed like a vortex was flashing purple ripples. After Cole stood on the scale, the horse on the opposite side flew up. Cole saw a person riding on it. He could not look down at the face and could only see the long braids from a distance. After the horse flew away, the scale began to sink slowly, shaking continuously, making Cole unable to stand at all. The knob of the scale creaked, and Cole lay on the plate. The huge iron chain holding the tray above his head made a clanging friction sound. Cole lay on the edge of the scale and looked into the distance. The originally white world was instantly filled with blood and flames. Pillars of fire gushed out from the cracks in the ground, and the magma emitted gurgling hot bubbles. And the scale was taking Cole closer and closer. What made Cole's scalp numb was that the red and black blood rolling between the rock walls on both sides of the magma was oozing out from the cliffs, broken limbs, half-skull heads, and countless wails that seemed to come from the abyss. Cole turned over in fear and grabbed the chain of the tray. Now he had only one belief: he had to keep climbing up, keep climbing up. Kevin was stationed in Riverrun. He only left 2,000 people to guard the castle with him. He asked people to lead the remaining soldiers to support Lannister's northern army. Cole was also taken away by his firemen. Kevin originally did not allow it, but the firemen did not listen at all and even drew swords. Thinking that Tywin had a better maester, Kevin had no choice but to let them go. Now it has been 2 days since the army set out. It is estimated that it has reached the intersection of the King's Road, which is also the convergence point of the Trident River. Suddenly, the crow feeder brought a letter from the Raven. The letter was from his brother Tywin. He praised Kevin generously and mentioned Cole at the end of the letter. After capturing Riverrun, Kevin quickly sent a raven to deliver the news to Tywin. In fact, before the battle, Kevin wanted to ask Tywin for his opinion, but he thought that the raven might be caught by the enemy, so he held back. The child did not survive the high fever, and he was escorted to the North End camp by a dozen knights. Tywin said that the free folks were in trouble, saying that the Flatlanders killed their king. Tywin personally presided over the child's funeral. They put him on the raft, asked the Silent Sisters to sew up the wound on his back, and dressed him in red and gold silk according to the requirements of the free folks. He did not have a noble coat of arms, so Tywin wrapped him with his own lion banner, and placed all his property on the raft according to the custom of the free folks, except for a sword. The free folks also moved a broken stone and put it on it. Kevin thought of the sword he was holding tightly in his hand when he was brought in that day. It seemed that it had not been taken away, and it should be in his tent now. Thinking that his property should be sent back to his family, Kevin sent people to Cole's tent to get his things, but he heard that all the things had been taken away by the servant Munda. Kevin was furious about this, and he sent cavalry to hunt down the follower. When the raft went down the river, Tywin personally shot a rocket with a bow and gave him the highest standard of etiquette, and the freemen stopped making trouble. They were led back to the Moon Mountains by a freeman named Timot. The eagle flew over the valley and stream. On the far river, a lonely raft was slowly going down the water. Suddenly, an old tree fell from the river bank, and a wave of waves covered the raft with a crash. The flames went out, and even the ropes that bound the corpse were not burned. The river was turbulent all the way, and the river was sometimes calm and sometimes impatient. On the rolling river, someone saw a raft floating. When they saw the person lying on it, they all bowed their heads and prayed silently, saying a sentence of God's have mercy. A crow flew by and landed on the raft. It pecked at the white body, and suddenly seemed to be frightened by something, then flew away with a quack. A towering waterfall appeared in front of the raft, and the raft flew down quickly, not afraid of the rolling waves under the cliff. It flew down from the cliff, and was not overturned during the ups and downs, and then continued to rejoice, accompanied by the rolling river, and rushed into the sea. Chapter 49. Arya, how do you know this place? When Eddard Stark got up from the sewage-filled ditch, he asked his daughter with a puzzled look on his face. Suddenly, a person on the shore caught Eddard's attention. He was wearing a heavy brown robe with rough fabric, a wide figure, and a cloak covering his face. Eddard instantly became alert until the cloak was slowly pulled down, revealing a rough face full of stubble. It was hard to believe that the last time he saw him, he was still dressed as a jailer, and the last time he was a eunuch with greasy hair and powder. How many faces does he have? Good morning, my lord. He saluted Eddard with a rough voice, which was different from the sweet voice in the past. But Eddard felt a chill on his back, as if the person in front of him was not a human, but a terrifying giant spider. This person was Varys, known as the Eight-Clawed Spider, the intelligence chief of the Royal Council. Varys? What do you want? Eddard frowned and stared at that face. He thought of what Cersei Lannister said to him, in the game of power, if you don't win, you will die. The daughter is very brave. I just told her the location of the dungeon. Eddard looked unkind. You shouldn't involve a child. Some things are beyond our control, Lord Stark, just like your eldest son has led the army south. Robb. Who else but him? The boat is ready for you, my lord. As for whether you can return to the north, it depends on you and your daughter. This place is on the coast, and the sewage of the Red Castle is discharged from here. A small boat is upside down among the gravel on the shore. It seems to have rained, and there is a little chill in the air, which makes Eddard feel like he is born in the north, but this little breeze is too gentle compared to the north. Varys did not tell him that the White Ravens of the Citadel had sent a message a few days ago that the long summer was about to end and Westeros was about to usher in winter. The Maesters predicted that after the long summer there would be a long night, and this 10-year summer would bring a long winter. I know you can, Varys. Help me save Sansa, please. Eddard, who was always cold, had a pleading look on his proud face. You are too embarrassed for me. I am just an unarmed intelligence chief. I advise you to leave King's Landing as soon as possible, my lord. Your eldest daughter is well taken care of by the Queen. The Queen even agreed to let her continue to marry our king. He is not the king. Varys smiled lightly. There are several kings in the kingdom now. I heard that even Lord Tywin has a barbarian king under his command. I ask you again, Varys, what is your purpose? You clearly did not agree to help me in prison. Eddard looked at the eunuch. Robert spared your life. You shouldn't have let Joffrey sit on the Iron Throne. I don't mind who sits on the Iron Throne, my lord. Eunuchs have no honor. Varys put his hands in the pockets of his white hemp cloth. Robert is a fool, but it is undeniable that he brought peace to Westeros. I should have told you that in this castle, only the king is an outsider with power. He doesn't care who sits on the Iron Throne. He only wants wine and women. I once protected him from harm, but you hurt him, my lord. You could have given the Iron Throne to that child and returned to the north safely. I think the warm Winterfell must be much more comfortable than the dungeon. Oh, sorry, I heard that there are hot springs flowing in the walls of Winterfell. I think you don't even need to light a fire to live in it. Is there your little bird in Winterfell? Eddard asked unkindly. Varys tilted his head, who knows? Crows are everywhere because they have a pair of black wings, but little birds don't have them, and neither do spiders. Winter is coming, my lord. The enemy is not in front of us, but across the sea. Varys pulled up his hood and walked into the night, his light and silent steps like a shadow. Are we going to save Sansa? Arya asked him. Ed looked up at the towering red castle on the cliff, then shook his head. Varys was right. He should return to the north. There was no one he could trust here. Pushing the boat into the water, the next journey would definitely not be easy. The Lannisters would definitely want them all over the country. If his leg was not injured, it would be fine, but since he fell off the horse, every time his leg moved, it felt like someone was chiseling his bones with a knife. The boat was pushed down by Arya. Eddard's eyes were full of guilt. He shouldn't have brought his children to King's Landing to suffer this. As a father of several children, as Robert's best friend, as the monarch of Winterfell, and as Catelyn's husband, he felt that he had failed. Under the moonlight, a small boat slowly sailed out of King's Landing. Varys stood in the dark and watched them go away. No one knew what the octopus spider was thinking, and no one knew what he wanted. He was like a little bird, like a mystery. Arya still remembered the words she overheard. Those guys on horseback came over, and the little princess gave them a little horse king. We need time for Aegon. If the Seven Kingdoms continue to make trouble like this, how can we stop those barbarians on horseback? They can't cross this strait, and the adults in Westeros will not welcome outsiders. There are enough ships in the east to bring those guys here with their horses and men. Now all the city-states are recruiting mercenaries and buying Unsullied. Those mercenary groups and slave owners are making a lot of money. If the wildlings with braids really take over Westeros, our efforts will be in vain. You must stabilize this place. I know you can do it. If not, I will ask the faceless men of Bravos to take action. Who do you want to kill? Daenerys, Drogo? Or Joffrey, or Stannis? No matter who I kill, I just hope that our efforts will not be in vain. Old friend, we have been planning for this for so many years, you can get more. Title or power? I am already in the highest position, and it won't change anything if someone else sits on it. I know what you want, Aegon will satisfy you, and you have seen the child. At least he is better than the incestuous freak sitting on the chair now. Arya heard the broad man sigh. I once thought that Aerys would be a wise king. Oh. It seems that a little mouse has hidden here. Arya finally heard the man say so, and then she was discovered. Chapter 50. Khaleesi, you should kill or drive away the witches. They can do terrible witchcraft and make peace with demons. The maid Yahiki whispered in Daenerys' ear. Blood witch, no, she saved her star and sun. That day, Drogo was staggering on the horse all day. At night, she saw blood flies flying in their tent. They all said that blood flies only appeared on dead people. Even though the injury was so serious, Drogo insisted on riding a horse. The person who saved her star and sun was Mirai Mazdur, also known as the Witch. She claimed to be a healer. She wrapped a bunch of herbs wrapped in a sheepskin to cover Drogo's wound. Drogo had a big cut on his chest and an arrow wound. Drogo tore the witch's medicine after only 5 days, and then his injuries worsened. The wound was wrapped with a wet sheepskin. His face was pale and bloodless. He rode the horse blankly all day, and did not respond to anyone's call. Sir Yoram Mormont whispered to her on the horse that if Khal Drogo fell off the horse or could not ride the horse, then his Colossa would leave and follow the new Khal, which was the bandits under Drogo now. Some people said that the witch harmed the Khal. Until the night of the 11th day, Dany accidentally touched Drogo and his whole body was cold. She trembled and called him softly, but he did not move, and there was no sound at all. Blood flies buzzed around and even landed on them. Each one was as big as a bee, and the flapping of wings made a disgusting sound. Dany kept calling for her Drogo with a crying voice. She felt like the sky was falling. In her helplessness, she thought of the dragon eggs. She quickly ran to the box of dragon eggs and took out 3 dragon eggs. Unfortunately, she forgot that she was pregnant, so she tripped and fell, and the dragon eggs fell to the ground. Blood also seeped out between her feet, and the blood dyed the dragon eggs red. Dany picked up the dragon eggs while enduring the pain, lifted Drogo's hand, put the dragon eggs in her arms, and then leaned down to hug him. She kept comforting herself that she was the last true dragon, Daenerys born in the storm, and the gods would not take away her Drogo, nor her stars and suns. Someone heard her crying and rushed in. When he saw her crying on Drogo's body, he instantly understood something. Several blood guards came over after hearing the noise, and then they saw a scene that frightened them extremely. A bloody horse head was cut off horizontally, and large pieces of horse blood were smeared on Khal Drogo's body. The witch was smearing the blood while muttering devil's spells. Heavy shadows were lingering, and those shadows were people, horses, and all kinds of strange shapes. The blood guards saw the black shadows rushing into Drogo's body, and then his originally lifeless body began to jump, and the black air swirled, and suddenly rushed into the sky, and no one knew where it went, and the witch fainted after a high-pitched shout. No one knew where the black air went. After the sounds of ghosts and wolves howling dissipated in the straw tent, they saw Drogo's chest began to float, and the sound of breathing gradually rose. At this time, the silver-haired Khaleesi groaned in pain. Her belly was already swollen, and she was about to give birth, and her body was also red. She screamed black wings, and the maids rushed up, and the midwife was called, but the horse riding the world prophesied by the Dosh Kalain did not come out. Dany would not tell them that she dreamed of a real dragon that day, dreaming of her brother Rhaegar, who people said had beautiful long silver hair and an elven voice, and was the last real dragon. But all Dany saw was a short silver hair. He was wearing black armor, riding a warhorse, and his red cloak fluttering in the wind. Below was a battlefield of blood and fire, with 3 rivers crossing and converging. His opponents were outnumbered, and he had only 4 guards around him, but he won, not losing to the usurper as people said. His warhorse fell, and he fell off, and Dany saw him rolling far away on the slope covered with trees and thorns. The sword in his hand was cold and shining, and it must be their family's ancestral sword Dark Sister. Viserys told him about the 2 heirloom swords of the Targaryen family, one is the Dark Sister and the other is the Black Fire. It is said that the Black Fire is in Essos, and she must find it back. Dany finally saw him standing in the center of a war. She walked over and took off his helmet, but it was blurry and she could only vaguely see his short hair. Suddenly, a pair of black wings flew down from the sky, surprising her. When Dany opened her eyes, she found herself surrounded by a group of people, and Rhaegal in her belly was very calm and did not make any noise. She gently touched her belly and whispered in her heart, "You know what? Little Rhaegal. I dreamed of your uncle. You will be as tall and brave as him." At this time, the maid Yahiki told her with a complicated look that Khal Drogo had woken up. For Dany, what happened was like a nightmare, and now she woke up. She watched with joy as Drogo opened his eyes in a daze, and then his strong body once again mounted his horse, but his original horse was dead. Horses are the faith of the Dothraki people, and Drogo was even angry about this, but Dany told him that it was the fierce horse that brought him back from the Dark Land, just because he was the father of the prophesied horse riding the world. Drogo did calm down after hearing this, and then rode another horse to patrol his Khalasar. Drogo did not tell anyone about his dream. Only the witch was trembling. Only she knew what she had done, blood magic. She used blood magic to make people come alive. She couldn't help but think of the salvation prophecy spread by Char. After a long summer, when the stars weep blood, Azor Ahai will be reborn in the land of smoke and salt, and awaken the dragon in the stone. That silver-haired woman is a descendant of the evil dragon. She must have the evil dragon in her belly, thinking of the Dothraki prophecy that the prince will ride on the horse of the world and conquer to the end of the world. They came to life, the child and the man. Disaster, this will be a disaster that sweeps the world. It was she who released the dragon. Cole didn't know how long he had been climbing. He kept climbing, but the scale disappeared and the gate of Suyin disappeared. Wherever he looked, there was only an iron chain, a section of iron chain going up, and underneath him was the piece of metal. Fire and purgatory. He was so tired from climbing, but he didn't dare to stop because the magma was rising rapidly, and the broken limbs beside him were constantly pulling him down. He prayed, if this is a dream, let him wake up soon, whether it is the new god or the old god. And at the seaport in the distance, a raft that had been walking for an unknown length of time slowly floated into the trembling sea carrying a stone and a corpse. Let's talk about the setting of blood magic. In the original work, the setting was to resurrect the Horse King by sacrificing Drogo's mount and Dragon Mother's child, but the blood magic only made him a vegetable. But here, because the Dragon Mother's blood was contaminated with the dragon egg, and the dragon egg was smeared on the body of the Horse King, the evil god of blood magic focused on coal. I set some causal elements here, because coal. If you change the trajectory of the world, you will naturally have to accept some unreasonable disasters.